Good evening and welcome to the Super License F1 podcast. My name's Rod.
And my name's Zach.
How's it going, Zach? It's been a little while since we've done a show, but we're back.
Yeah, and we're really only back because we have to do a film review. Like, that's the only reason we've come back so soon. Otherwise, we're going to wait it out till September. Wait for the season to really ferment and really give us something to talk about.
Hopefully, there's another film that comes out at another point throughout this year. Otherwise, this might be our last show for the season.
Maybe we could stack all the highlights of every race together into a film length something that we could watch.
Or maybe there's a special. They might release a special edition with extra footage.
Oh, like a DVD that we could buy.
Yes, the DVD is what I'm talking about. Streaming, brother.
I never really understand that people who watch, if their like sports club of choice has like an end of season DVD with all the like stuff, or videotape it used to be, of like Magpies 99, and even if they didn't win the premiership or whatever it was, and it would just be like, I guess the year of highlights of those games, I suppose, into like a 3-hour video. And then what do? You return to that if you want to watch those highlights at some point in your life.
I guess I never really watched any of those, but that's interesting. But I mean, I guess it's not that complicated, right? It's highlights from the year. Like, I don't know. I guess it's for people that just love their club and just want to support it, and they want to look back on the year through only the good moments.
Do you think there is a VHS for like 1995?
Of what? Like
Formula
AFL?
One. No.
Formula One.
Formula One.
I mean, they used to do end of year. Why did you pick that year?
What?
Why did you pick
why
that
did I pick 1995? I just think I picked a year. I just wanted the 90s.
Oh, okay.
I found this is the link, Rod. It's the F1 Formula 11989 to 2000. So 19. I'm assuming that's 1989. Yeah, of course, Formula One 1989. VHS video bundle
comes with all these things.
Well,
here you go. We're raising a GoFundMe. We need £42.32.
Yep, good one.
To get all of these DVDs.
Wow, and then I suppose it's like the whole season. Yeah, interesting. All Formula One branding. Don't have a VHS player. Wow, there's one just called Eddie Irvine. Whoa, these are good. These are real good. I feel like we could buy these and watch them over the summer. Yeah.
Like
my boy Eddie. That's not what we're talking about today, Rod. We are
going to talk later about the F1 movie. So if you're hanging out, or if you haven't seen it, we're gonna. Well, I don't know whether we're gonna get you excited for it or not, but we're gonna talk about it, and we're gonna do a non-spoiler version and a spoiler version. So if you haven't seen it, you'll have an opportunity to listen in, but then we won't give anything too much away. But then later we will, because I feel like it's actually quite important. But we're going to talk all about that. We've had a big race at Silverstone to talk about lots of hot button issues, they say. And just everything else has been going on in the sport since the last time we spoke.
Convened is what I'm going to say. We convened the F1 Super License F1 podcast. Actually, that was a note I was going to. Somebody brought up that to me about. No. I'm going to say it for the movie chat. I'm just going to write it down.
Okay, cool.
Does Sunny Hayes have a super license?
Great. Excellent. Well, yeah, I don't know. Maybe do we just jump straight in without further ado?
Yeah, come on. Tell me about how much you love Lando Norris winning the Silverstone Grand Prix.
Love that. First thing I want to know about is the vibes and your watching experience, because I'm not over there, but you are. What did you do?
The vibes of my watching experience, right? So I wrote off my whole Sunday for sport this weekend, right? These are the vibes, right? It was raining on and off. Wimbledon's on, the cricket's on, the Formula One is on. We're multi-screening, but the main event is the British Grand Prix. And everyone was really excited about it. I had people talking to me all last week, being like, oh my God, British Grand Prix this weekend. Are you going? Of course I'm not going. It's in a funny spot. It's hard to go to. But I think everyone was kind of pumped for this British Grand Prix. I think the season's in a really good spot. People are excited about the fact that, we got Russell, we got Lando, I'm mixing. I hate it when I mix surnames and first names. So I mean, Norris, Russell, Hamilton. There's British drivers who are in good positions. We've got British teams that are pretty good too.
They've all been winning races lately.
No one knows what's going to happen. And then the good weather disappears and the bad weather is forecast. People are vibrating with the idea that we might get a wet, dry, wet, dry, wet, wet, dry race. The sprinkler race is what we're going to call it. People are excited. And so I think everyone came in with some good energy. And one of the other things I want to say, lots of people are starting to talk about whether Silverstone is actually one of the better music festivals going around, because there were great musical acts this year. Everyone's
Who
in
was
town
that?
this time of year. I don't know. Who was there? Let's have a look. British Grand
Everyone's talking
Prix.
about this, and I brought it up on my
I wasn't
podcast. Who's?
correct.
I
I
have no
wasn't
idea.
correct on my own,
Well, you brought it up.
but
Okay. But I did ask for vibes. You are giving me vibes. I shouldn't be too harsh.
you're being real harsh. Oh, also, no, Fatboy Slim was DJing on the pit lane. So there was
Oh,
that.
yes. Oh, didn't he play some sample that was like "fuck Trump" or something?
Oh, who knows?
I mean, I
Probably.
saw. I think that was from that, and that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we got Sam Fender, we've got Fatboy Slim, Becky Hill, and some other people who are also excellent. It was a big one. It was good. I mean, we know this when we were in Singapore. We saw Robbie Williams and we saw Jennifer Lopez.
Jennifer Lopez, yeah, and they're different events, quite different events. One's in one country, the other one's in a separate country.
Yeah, I know, but what I'm saying is that Formula One has been trying to turn these races into big festivals of activity, and
I would
British
say
Grand Prix is doing more of that.
Singapore, Silverstone, and Kota. They're the big three that do the music well. I would say.
What's happening at the Australian Grand Prix? No.
Oh, Spiderbait last year. Spiderbait for the 10th time in a row. For the 30th time in a row. Spiderbait, and probably like you know. I can't even think of the
Name
names
one
of all
other
those.
Australian band.
The Living End. It's like literally
Great.
like bands on that level. Maybe you might get Jet, but then other years it'll be like. But
Jet
the other
would
thing
be-
is, it's like, oh, Jessica Malboy and people that they're not my generation's.
They're probably
going
hosts
concern.
of a talent show on Channel
No,
9.
but like I mean, like they might be great. I just don't know because they're not my thing.
They're just not your thing.
You might be picking up on this, Zach. I don't pay much attention to things that aren't my thing, and I pay a lot of
DJ
attention to
Visage.
things that are my thing.
Tracks aren't your thing, as we learnt
No,
pre-show.
definitely. Well,
So yeah,
you go.
good vibes. How are you feeling about
Great
this race?
vibes.
You were excited about the idea that we get a straight fight between the three best position drivers in Formula One.
I wanted that. I was set up for that. I was getting ready. It was a late one, midnight on a school night for me. This one set up. For
I refrained from
was-
texting you because I was like, I might be
Thank
spoiling
you.
the race here, so I
So
didn't
nice.
text you.
Oh, good. Yeah, no, set up for qualifying and then went, well, that's fine, I suppose. But at least the race will be good. And then set up for the race. It was a real late one. So if I tweeted something dumb, like congratulations to George Russell on his win, which I apparently did at 2:30 in the morning my time. Apologies. I've deleted it now. It's gone. I did not mean to write George Russell won the race. I was just thinking of George Russell while I was writing, which I shouldn't do.
No, never think of George Russell if you can avoid it.
No, try not to. And no, good otherwise. And just was pumped for it. Big time pumped.
You know who was pumped about winning? I think he was overly pumped. This is how I felt. So I haven't had strong feelings about winners and losers in Formula One races in a while, right? I think that the last guy I really cared about, like that, like on an emotional level, somebody winning or losing, maybe Daniel Ricciardo and his pomp, right? But the rest of the time, like I'm emotional when good things happen. You know, I'm glad for drivers. Maybe I'm just getting old. Oscar Piastri did so much in this race. He put together, good overtakes. He raced really well. He had to go through multiple kind of restarts and shifting bits around safety cars and wet and dry track. Like all the drivers had to go through that, right? But the pressure was on him. And I really felt that when he got his penalty, and I kind of knew, I was like, God, I'm always talking about how you've got all the racecraft. This is the thing that separates you from other drivers of your ilk. This is why you'll be world champion, because you've got the racecraft. You're calm and considered under pressure. You didn't need to break that hard coming into that at the end of that safety car period. You didn't need to do as much. You overdid it. You'd done enough of these before. That was a lot to try and do. But when that penalty came down as 10 seconds, I did feel it a little bit in my tummy that I went, oh, that's not, I'm not going to call it season wrecking or that it will decide the championship. But I tell you what, if this championship is decided by less than kind of 5 points, it is going to be one of those things that people go like, well, if it was just 5 seconds, I reckon he probably would have overtaken Lando.
Yeah.
And
it was pretty harsh, I'd say.
Yeah. And
he
so
got 2 penalty points for it. 2 penalty points for that.
He didn't crash into anybody. nothing like Verstappen spun himself straight after that, very uncharacteristic. No one was hurt. There were no crashes. It was like it wasn't necessarily the right thing to do, but I've seen 10-second penalties given for other stuff that I was like,
Mm,
wow, that's I can see why you
yeah.
gave 10 seconds there. You crashed into someone and wrecked 2 races, your own and
So
someone else's. There was nothing here. So really penalizing the action, not the outcome, which is always
this
the
is
trouble
exactly
in
what I
Formula
wanted to
One.
get into. This is perfect
Mm.
because we always say on the show, and we've always said, and we've been pretty consistent here over 12, 13 years of doing it. They penalize the action, not the outcome. I think at this time they penalized the outcome, not the action.
Mm.
Proof of that, you already friggin' did it and you didn't penalize it. And it's a
Yeah.
normal thing to do. And if
Mm.
Verstappen had braked and not just flown past him like a friggin' idiot, he wouldn't have even got a penalty. He wouldn't have even investigated it.
No, you wouldn't have even looked at it.
And the more I think about that penalty, the more I think it's actually really unjust and unfair and wrong, frankly.
Yeah.
And I've been
Yeah.
arguing with people for the last 24 hours on threads and blocking a lot of people who just go, nah, and because Lando, woo. And I'm like,
Was Lando
oh,
good? Yeah.
awesome.
That's what really stuck in my craw is that I'm very, very, very happy that Lando Norris can walk away
Me too.
at some point in his career with a win at his home race, and that you could hear it in his voice, genuinely. Like, I thought this wasn't ever going to happen for me, and I've come close before, and today I did everything I could, and it worked out for me, and that's Formula
didn't
One.
do
But I'm
anything wrong.
so happy, right? Yes,
Yep.
and that's what you could level at Piastri is that he didn't do anything wrong, but he also didn't cause the 2 safety cars that meant that the whole track bunched up. The 1 safety
Yeah.
car that when he was out in front by 20 seconds, that it was like, oh no, safety car, da da da.
Yeah.
Like,
So,
what is
I
this?
mean,
A
the
Formula One
maths
movie?
on that is that he was ahead of Lando by 14 seconds. That was wiped out
Yeah.
by the safety car. Then he got a 10-second penalty, served that, and was still less than 10 seconds behind Lando. There's a lot of positives for Piastri if you want to go and find them.
Mm-hmm.
But for him to have that race, drive like that, get that penalty, and come away with less than a win is, I can understand why he's gutted. And I think everyone, like, holding him to some weird high standard is just weird and wrong.
No, and
And Lando went from P3 to P1.
Hmm.
He got ahead of Piastri because of a penalty, got ahead of Verstappen twice when Verstappen was off the track.
yep, yeah, he was probably.
He in
gonna nail him
fact
at some
overtook
point, but
nobody and won the race. Like, I'm not. That's why I was. What I tried to post was very, very glad for Lando, even if he did pull a bit of a George Russell, meaning did
Yeah.
nothing, got great
Yeah.
result. But I mean, look, I don't want to take anything away from Lando. Yet he won at home, incredible. I picked him to win. I hoped that he would win, but I also wanted a good fight for the win, and we didn't get that.
Yeah, no, that's a shame. And I also wonder. The conversation shouldn't be about Lando. That's the other thing too. Like he won the race, and that's fine, right? But the interesting things from this race are about
fine.
Oscar Piastri and are about Verstappen and about Hulkenberg.
Yeah.
And
So I mean, I don't know how Anaraki you want to get into the penalty and the ruling and the.
I'm happy to go there.
Because-
You know, I think that this is the unfortunate changing, and like it shifts around, right? I think that every race, because we've got gaps between them and we have little runs on races, and things shift around based on driver feedback, and tracks are slightly different. And they say like, well, here, you know, it's because of this or because of that, and we it's a slightly different interpretation this week than last week because the drivers said that they want to have more strict policies on the ways people drive, and so that's just in the rules. Like, who was saying that? I think Martin Brundle was just saying that, and he was just like, well, the drivers all decided that that's the policy, and they asked, and look how great the stewards are, because they say they publish all their findings, and look, it's all really fair. I was like, could you be more like, I think if this had gone the other way, if this was Lando's penalty, I think David Croft and Martin Brundle both would have gone like, oh, gee, that's strong. That's real harsh.
They would have spent the entire rest of the
How
broadcast
unfair.
reframing it as how harsh it was, how hard done by he was. I tweeted out or posted out, you know, if Lando had lost the win because of a penalty like that, then the FIA would have pulled an all-nighter and redrafted a new regulation and had it enforceable today.
Yeah.
That was different. But because it's not him, they won't do that.
No, and it's fine. And look, it's better for the narrative. It keeps the championship alive. Another 7 points
Happy for that.
for Piastri would have been like in front of Lando, would have been
Yeah.
pretty not I don't think it ends the championship, but these two just aren't really showing any signs of problems from any of the other teams, right? Other than Max Verstappen consistently being able to
Yeah.
whip out quick qualifying times. The car's a dog. And it's only the fact that Max Verstappen is probably the best driver of a generation, definitely the best driver of his generation, that manages to do anything with it. That this championship kind of has any legs at all. I mean, George Russell's the other guy, I suppose, maybe, right? But it's close now, I think. But yeah, I think kind of what got to me a little bit was if I was Lando Norris, I probably wouldn't have been like, oh my God, guys, we did it. We did it. I would have been like, gee, that was lucky. I'm so happy to have this win. And I probably would have just kept my mouth shut a little bit. Like the idea that
yeah,
you celebrate a win where all you did was drive around and not do anything. Fine.
Yeah, I feel like there's been a lot of like both sides online, like both sides are angry. It's the same with we'll get to the Hulkenberg podium later, but like they went out of their way to really, like Oscar Piastri will say the big highlight for the day is Hulkenberg's podium. And then everyone will jump on him and be like, what do you mean? Your team got a 1-2. Your teammate won his home race. This is epic. You should be like, that should be the highlight of the day. And it's like, he can have his own highlight of the day. But then later when they're on the podium and they don't make a big enough deal about Hulkenberg, everyone's like, why aren't you making a big deal about Hulkenberg? And it's like, what? I can't fucking keep you people happy. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, if you wanted to string together Canada, Austria, and now Silverstone together, there's some really interesting storylines that come out. One of them you touched on before, which was Oscar Piastri's racecraft and mentality. I still think he has amazing racecraft, and I still think that he's looking the better of the two. But you could look at Canada. You could look at Canada and say, well, in the late stages, Norris was faster, made a driving error that was very costly for him, not really very costly for Oscar. And in a way, Oscar came away with the points, but, you know, Lando was threatening, and if things had gone differently, he might have finished ahead of him. So he kind of dodged the bullet there. Then we get to Austria, and Piastri's kind of like got a point to prove, and Lando gets to put in his qualifying lap, but Piastri doesn't, and he gets very, very angry about that, and he passes Verstappen at the start, which is great, but now it's him chasing down Lando when if they had started P1 and P2, he might have had an even better chance of chasing him and getting him earlier, or he might have even pipped him for pole. Who knows? He's that kind of guy. He did it in Silverstone. He was behind for a lot of the practices, looked to be slightly off the pace, but then, hey, he finished ahead of Lando in qualifying. So then, you know, he's chasing down Lando. Chances keep running out, and he gets very desperate. This is when we started to see a bit of a different side to Piastri, locking up, going for weird dives because he's just desperate to get ahead of him, but running out of opportunities to do so.
I think that's why he gets on the radio at this race and says, hey, if you don't think that penalty's right, swap us. Now that is the thinking of someone who is at his wit's end and trying to be too logical about the thing. Like he's like, well, if it's almost like
we all agree it was unfair.
Yeah, if you don't like how many
thing to do.
Exactly. You know, if I'm just trying to think of a more human example than a Formula One driver asking for something. But yeah, I don't know. Like if you don't think this is the right amount to pay at this restaurant, then then pay less and somebody else should pay more. Like, so I don't know. Whatever stupid anecdote you want to come up with where it logically makes sense, but really it's not too much of a big deal. Like if it was the other way around, there's no. I don't think I'd be sitting here being like, yeah, they should let Lando through.
Yeah, that was cringe.
You would just be like, look, you made a mistake. That's what it is. Yeah, it's crap. I'm a little bit disappointed in him.
I was
not
really
that
embarrassed by that.
Anything. Yeah, and he doesn't need, and he shouldn't put that on the team either. Like that's not really good team play. And if it had come out of Max Verstappen's mouth, I would be like, oh my God, here we go. Like classic Verstappen. What a dickhead. And so, I think that's crap.
That was bad.
But we haven't seen a lot of that from Oscar. Like that's the thing. Like it's uncharacteristic. We haven't seen a huge amount of that from Oscar. I feel like Norris would maybe have tried the same play because I think that they're both a little bit like that. I think they know that it's close. I'm not going to say that Norris would have done that, but I've heard Norris do other things too.
Not quite in the same way, but in other ways, he's done similar things, like begging the team to like let him continue leading when they've gifted him the lead. Like he's not pulled the same tricks, but had the same mentality of I don't want to relinquish what I might have.
Yeah, which I think after having done this podcast for 13 years. I think that is all Formula One drivers. I think that is that is my current like status quo, which is that
Okay.
no Formula One driver ever wants to swap positions.
Oh, yes.
And if they do, and they're the ones that, we'll let you pass and then see if you can chase down the other guy. Oh, I'm not being able to chase down the other guy. Swap back. I don't want to swap back,
No,
actually.
yeah, you're too
No,
far behind.
I'm still faster than him.
My tires have come to life now, and I can't let you through. Sorry.
Yeah, so that's the impossibility of it. They are
I hate
all
that
like
stuff.
that. And I don't even think, we had a situation this weekend where, Leclerc was trying to get past Sainz, or Sainz was doing something stupid, and Leclerc's like, "What a dickhead! I hate this guy." I don't know. It's like 6 months ago, you guys were like best friends.
Yeah,
so
besties.
yeah, I think they're all just out for themselves. Funnily enough, interestingly,
Yeah, it's crazy.
and they'll only do something
So-
for somebody else if it literally does not harm their race in any way, shape, or form.
Sure. But the safety car incident itself.
What,
How
the
many
actual-
times is
Ah.
how many times can Max Verstappen wait for the driver in front to brake and then just sail past them and continue to pretend like, oh, he broke so much? Like sooner
Or
or
continue
later.
to guess when the person's going to drive fast, and then do that, because that's what he did this weekend, right? He's like, great, I think I was going to hammer it coming into this corner. I'm going to start going around on the outside, and I'll catch him out. And it's like, well, I'm not going to do that. Why would I do that?
After the incident in Canada between Russell and Verstappen, there was like Nico Rosberg was on I think it was the Sky podcast or something, saying this is an old trick and drivers do this all the time. When you're behind somebody on safety car, you don't line up behind them. You get off to the side, you get in their mirrors, you get them thinking about you, get them thinking about how they better not screw anything up, because it's like, it's a psych out move. So for Verstappen to be like, oh, that guy braked and I had to take evasive action or I would have crashed it. It's like, fuck off, you
He has
idiot.
nothing.
Yeah, I'm really sick of it. And that seemed to be really key to the steward's decision, was that Piastri braking caused some kind of incident that caused Verstappen to have to take evasive action. And that was the justification for the penalty. And I was like, but if you break that down, what happened was Piastri broke and then Verstappen was asleep and didn't react and just sailed past him. Which of the two drivers is actually more of a contributing factor to that?
Yeah.
If you I would worry if every time I brake, the driver behind me just sails through. Like, I'd be like, can you get off the friggin' road, please?
Yeah. It's a weird thing to do, because the amount of times we saw drivers yesterday in the race, do things in the weather. Like, are you going to penalize teams for putting drivers on slicks when it's not safe to put them on slicks, and then when those drivers crash into other drivers, go or crash off the track and re-enter the track in pretty dangerous ways because they're just like, I'm not in control anymore. Let's see. Do you go and penalize them? Yeah, because even if nothing happens, and so this is, if you break the rules, and if this is the rule that you can't, because what did they dock him for? It was like driving unnecessarily.
It was erratic
naughty.
braking and
Yes.
contributing to a situation that could have caused a collision or unsafe conditions.
Okay.
Which again, I think that you could argue that either way, frankly.
Yeah, but even if you wanted to, then even if you were like, oh, is it that? And someone's like, oh, yeah, I guess it is. You go, if it's guess it is, just give him a 5-second penalty then. Like, then you can give him a penalty point on his license. You give him a 5-second penalty. He's going to have to take that in the pit. Something can still go wrong in the pits. Great. You just move on. But by making it the race deciding factor in a race that had so many things happen in it that were all driving incidents, like no one's walking away from this weekend being like, oh, did you see that midfield battle where X crashed into Y? No one's talking about any of that stuff, because it is this infraction that decided the race. That's why it gets so much attention, because there isn't really a right answer, because everyone feels somewhat vindicated. It's like, well, he broke the rules, so he deserves penalty. That's true. But how badly did someone break the rules is how Formula One, it's why Formula One always struggles. And I actually think it's one of the pain points of being a Formula One fan and getting involved in this sport, is that it is kind of loosey-goosey. I don't think I could accurately tell someone, you're new to Formula One. They go, okay, what happens if a guy crashes into another guy? You go,
Well,
Well.
sometime that is. but not always.
Yeah, exactly. Right. What does a black and white flag mean? Well, it means they've been naughty-ish, and then if they catch someone one time, they might disqualify them. But that basically never happens. There is nothing hard and fast about this sport, and so that's the only thing that is consistent. That old line
That's
is the
that's kind of where I
inconsistency.
land on this one. Is that this incident really falls into a bit of a grey area in the regulations, which there's
Mhm,
always grey areas.
mhm.
But the definition of what does it mean to
Mm.
brake or accelerate erratically? What does that mean? If
Yeah.
Piastri did it before and you didn't investigate or penalize him, how could you say that when he does it later that it's erratic? I don't. That makes no sense to me. That's why when I say the more I think about this, the more I think this is a bullshit call. Like if you brake behind a safety car and if that's a standard practice, then braking behind a safety car is not an erratic thing to do.
No.
It's only about how much. Now, you could argue that. Sure, if you want to do that, fine. If you want to come up with a regulation about it, that's fine. I was thinking, like, well, maybe when the safety car goes in, we have simulated virtual safety car kind of standards, 30% race speed or something like that that is agreed and
Yeah.
everybody knows you went over, like a pit limit. You went over it. Doesn't matter if you were over it by 10 Ks or zero point 0.1 of a K. You went over it. Everyone knows the rule. It's your job not to go over it, and you did, so penalty. And I just wonder whether we need something like that
Well, it just
because
it's yeah,
it just
but
feels
it's,
too based on vibes. And that's not acceptable when you're going to take a win away from a good driver and it could cost him the championship. That's not good enough.
yeah. But I think this is so often, but it hasn't really been a problem before. And I think to their credit, the commentators and other people watching this have said this, which is that this is the standard. The safety car goes away, but it goes away, and the first driver becomes the safety car, and they have to keep it slow. They can't just go straight away
Yes.
because the safety car's got to get off the track. And
Yeah.
if they go
Well,
straight away, they're all going to drive past that safety car.
They're gonna
It's suddenly going to be
they're gonna
a
hit the car.
dual
or they're gonna
category
have to
race. Yeah,
trying to
exactly,
reason
right?
with people online about this has been infuriating.
No. So you have to you have to slow down the pack, and that's what always happens. That is what happens, and the driver becomes the safety. The guy who's winning becomes a safety car, and then the only advantage that person has, because they've had their whole lead cut, the only advantage that person has is that they get to pick the moment they smash the
Yeah,
accelerator
they go.
and they go.
Yep.
Now, I don't think that you have to brake really hard. You know, like that's where I think Oscar's fucked this up for himself. Is that he did too much. He could have just, he doesn't have to slam on the brakes like he does. It's quick. Like he brakes hard. Now, I'm not saying overly hard. I'm not saying outside of the rules hard. I don't think he's actually trying to cause an incident. But I genuinely do believe he's trying to disrupt people a little bit. He's trying to disrupt Verstappen and Norris a little bit, I think. Just to be like, I'm just going to catch you both out here. Like, let's just, now's the point I'm going to stop and make you all go, oh shit, got to get my balance all right, stuff like that. And then I can choose to go when I want to go. And just try to put anything more in my favor. I genuinely think that's what he was trying to do. And I think he overcooked it. Now, does that mean that it's so untoward that it's so crazy? No, because imagine if just afterwards you're like, oh, I accidentally hit the brake a little hard. I'm sorry, guys. Like if it was, if he wasn't the current champion, I don't think that people would be looking too hard at this. I think you're right. I don't think if Max flew past him, like it was like, oh my god, like when it's someone when someone gets hit in the face in a sports match and they go to the ground like they've been shot.
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
like, oh
There's
my
another
God, I've
sport
been
that comes
flicked
to
in the
mind where
nose.
you touch
Yeah.
a player and there's another. Like I won't name
Yeah.
it, but
Yeah.
there's a sport that we all know the sport.
Ice hockey. But yeah, it's the pursuit of an infraction that makes it seem so outlandish and just so crazy. And because Max knew that was literally the only thing he had. Because if he wasn't leading, then the only chance, he had no other chance because he knew he couldn't follow. He'd been seeing it the previous laps, like he just couldn't do anything. The spray was too bad. He had nothing. And so Max had to turn it into something. And I'm so glad he spun on his own accord, like literally 2 seconds later, because
It's a real shame.
I loved hearing him on the radio being so like, this car is dog shit. Why are we even out here? It was like, it was fine when you were winning, wasn't it? You loved it then. We weren't really talking about anything then. So yeah, it's not out of the ordinary, this braking thing, but I think that Lando will learn the lesson now, which all sports people learn
Piastri?
eventually. Sorry, Piastri, thank you. Oscar Piastri will learn the lesson, which I think all good sports people learn, which is don't give them an excuse to penalize you ever. Don't give anyone an excuse. You don't have to do anything. You're in the fastest car. You're a great driver. All you need to do every weekend is qualify first or second, and you've got the pace to win every race. Just give them an excuse.
You just got to knock those hard edges off a bit. because, like you
Oh,
say, it arouses suspicion. It makes people want to penalize you. Just
mhm.
don't give them the reason to do it.
Yeah, exactly right.
Whether right or wrong, whether you should be able to get away with it or not, whether someone else didn't get away with it doesn't matter. Just do your own thing. You gotta
Yeah, which is
like.
what.
I'm sure he'll learn from it. He won't do that.
Yeah,
He won't make this mistake again ever in his whole career. But man, this is a hard way to learn that lesson. And
no,
I mean, look, I'm not even saying, man, I want this result overturned or anything like that. But I mean, the people who are online arguing, that was open shut case, slam dunk. I'm like, oh, well, what was slam dunk about it? Oh, well, he
mm,
slowed down from 260 kilometers to. I'm like, where does it say in the regulations that if you go below that speed that you get a penalty? And they're like, well, it was erratic. I'm like, well, what does erratic mean? Like, we
yeah,
need to get more specific than that if we're going to penalize people like this. Anyway,
yeah,
the rest of the
yeah,
show can't be
exactly.
about this.
No, 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 and it won't be. I think that there is a. It's interesting because I'm going to expand on my own comparison. Max Verstappen at his best stopped doing all the things that everyone was pissed off to him about when he knew he was in the fastest car and he was the best driver, and he just cruised to a championship, and he didn't have to do all the things he's known for, the like moving under braking, the slamming the door shut, because he just knew he was the fastest. So he stopped doing all those things and gave nobody an excuse to penalize him, to get DNFs, nothing. He just was like, you know what? I'm the best out there today. And then it was only when the car stopped being really good and they started getting challenged by McLaren that he started doing all the things again, because it was the only way. It was the kind of like do or die. People know I'm the best in the world. Maybe I'll get treated differently. And it really pisses him off
It's
when he
true.
doesn't get treated differently. And I think that that's all that Oscar Piastri needs to do if he wants to win these championships. And it's the same for Lando. All they need to do is keep their noses clean and they'll be
You know,
fine.
it's funny because I already have half a thought made about this, and then I heard an interview with Zach Brown. And he said kind of something pretty similar, which was like after Canada when they came together and the team just talked it through and sorted it out. I feel like Lando's been different after that, and I was like,
Mm,
yeah, that was a bad mistake that he made,
hmm.
horrible. But what seems to have happened is number one, he took confidence from it because he was like, I was faster than Piastri and everyone
Yeah.
knows it. I was faster
Hmm.
on that day and everyone knows it. I could do this. Second of all, if he can survive that, he can survive anything. It's
Yeah.
gonna be okay. So I just
Yep.
feel like those were the two magic ingredients that he needed. Since then, nailed it in Austria, come away with the victory in Silverstone. Like, I mean, I know that the sports people are just starting to go like, I don't believe in momentum. That's bullshit.
Mm.
I think they kind of, I think that's bullshit.
I
I
think
think they
they
do.
might.
And
Yeah,
I
I think they
feel
might.
like he might be thinking that crash could be the best thing that happened to his
Yeah.
season because sort of almost turned it around. Now, again, there's definitely positives that Piastri could take away from this
Yeah.
race. He, under slightly different circumstances, he could have romped at home and won. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Things are looking shaky for him right now because he's mentally
Yeah.
rattled.
Well, I wonder if that's in. So that's the only thing that I would wonder about, if he's mentally rattled or if he's just. I think he's annoyed. He's probably annoyed at himself now. I think he's the kind of character who wakes up this morning and goes, you know what? That was stupid. I didn't need to do that. Just remember that I'm the fastest guy out there in this car, and just I can do it from
But
third on the grid if I need to.
he's had no problem rebounding, but I just worry that how many times he's going to have to. I just worry that he's not moving on from things. Like he keeps bringing stuff up. Like when he got pushed off the track in Austria by the
Mm.
Alpine, he was like, Alpine, fucking me again.
Mm.
I was like, bro, that was years ago. Time to get
But I
over it.
wonder if that's also the like. But like, if you ask Vettel, Hamilton, Schumacher, they remember every single moment
Yeah,
that they were
that's true.
done, and I think that's actually what champions are like. Like they're
They
like,
remember it their way
it's the
too.
Michael Jordan thing, Like,
Yeah,
I took that
exactly. I
personally,
took that personally.
and I think that that's it, right? I think that that might be part of the Steely drive. I think that's why Lando was so emotional about winning the Grand Prix, because
Yeah.
he's had it taken away from him in wet conditions before. And he's made mistakes before and made bad calls before. And today he didn't. He played it slightly more conservatively. And he could have, you know, he could have even mucked it up towards the end when Oscar was like, I'm going to gain, half a second on you in this immediately after this lap, and did. And then Lando was like, actually, calm down. Just race quickly. It's all good. I can win this race. It's going to happen for me. So, yeah, if I was Oscar Piastri, I'd be looking at the next, 3 race. I'd be looking at all of these European races. Maybe not Monza, but I'd be looking at Spa, Hungaroring, and Zandvoort, and saying I should go and win all 3 of those races and tie this
Let's
thing
talk
up.
for a minute about Spa. You got plans for that weekend? The Spa weekend? Have you got any plans?
Not any specific plans. No, why? Other than watching
Well,
the Grand Prix.
you've been talking about watching and maybe doing a little cheeky little live stream
Ooh,
chatty, and I was like, that's not a bad time in one of my favorite races, and it's
yeah.
leaving the calendar off and on. It's going TikTok, so
Oh, it's going
I don't know.
TikTok. That's true.
Maybe we pencil that one in for maybe a potential live
Mm,
stream hangout fuck around.
I love that. Let's do
Let's
that.
pencil that in. Anyway,
Okay.
should we move on?
Yeah.
Nico Hulkenberg, 239 races, finally finally gets a podium. We owe him an apology. We were making fun of him back when in the Drive to Survive days, saying like he hasn't won any races, hasn't got any podiums, and now he's got one. So who's laughing now? Who's sucking whose
What's
balls now, Zach?
Who's sucking whose balls now? We're all sucking his balls, and he seems
That's it.
pretty happy about it. Yeah. What was the scene in Drive to Survive? They're at the Microsoft store or
The
something.
Microsoft
He's
thing,
there
and the
with
kids are
somebody
asking
else,
if
and
he's
they're
won
going, "How
any
many races have you
races.
won?
He's like, I've
How
won lots and
many?"
lots and lots of races. Actually, I've won lots of races. And they're like, how many in
Yeah.
Formula One? He's like,
Well, look at that. Is that
so
the new
yeah, man.
surface?
Tell me more about this
Whoa!
surface. You telling me it's got 5-point multi-touch? That's incredible.
Be throwing my iPhone straight in the bin.
Couple of close calls, but he's finally cracked it.
And you know what? He wasn't as excited as I expected him to be, because I think
He
it's
looked
a bit
like
embarrassing.
I mean, this is an obvious point to make, but he looked like he didn't know what to do when you're on a podium.
Yeah, he seems sheepish, like kind of like,
They
do I
hand him
want
the
to
trophy, and he's like, "Do I cheer now? Do I hold the trophy? Do I hold it
I've
up?"
never watched one
Like,
before.
bro, lose your mind. You're on the fucking podium.
And it's not just that; it's Sauber's. Isn't it Sauber's first podium for like 5
12
seasons or
years or
some
13
yeah,
years or
fuck
something.
me! Oh my god, it's so many.
It's been quite a lot.
Yeah, he maybe he's just a bit old now. Maybe he's kind of past it. Maybe he thinks it's a bit awkward, like to finally
It's
get the
aloof.
thing. Yeah, but it was a great
Like, no big
race
deal.
as well.
Good things happen to me all the time.
Formula One's just my hobby. Yeah,
I think it's now Adrian
expected way
Sutil.
more.
Most races without a podium. I think it's Adrian Sutil holds the mantle now.
Adrian Sutil. There's a man I
think
haven't
that's
thought
right.
about much.
Yeah.
Which country is he from again? Isn't he?
I'll Google it.
No, I was about to Google it. I wanted to see if we could guess. Adrian Sutil. He's the one who really likes classical music, right?
Oh, that's right. He does.
Yeah, I read that in a race
There's
program.
nothing wrong with classical music, by the way. But it is a bit weird if you like it. And you're a weirdo if you do that.
You're a weirdo if you like it. You're only allowed to like Talking Heads in Rod's book. That's the only
That's
band.
it.
All music starts
This
and
must
ends.
be Talking Heads on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Yeah.
YouTube as well. Anyway,
Herman Sutil. Interesting. Okay.
Hulkenberg, he did it.
Thank God. In the green. I still don't like their livery. My favorite anecdote
Yeah.
that came out this morning when I woke up, they didn't have any champagne in the garage. So Mercedes and I think Aston Martin brought them champagne because those teams prep for possibly being on the podium and celebrating good weekends, but Sauber do not.
see.
It turns out.
I saw there was, I think on Ted's notebook, he was loitering around the front of the Sauber hospitality
Lots
unit.
of free drink, Ted.
And this guy ran out of the hospitality unit with 3 huge bottles of Moët under his arms. And I was like, that guy must be a hyper VIP to run off with all the champagne. And then they're like, no, we're going to go and take the team photo. I was like, oh, that makes sense. My God, I just thought this guy was like the Grinch or something, stealing the spirit of Christmas because they need that champagne, bro.
They need
but
it.
Portoletto, I think, was walking around with a little cheeky glass of white. And it's like, that's a vibe right after an F1. Like, the track is still warm from the cars going around on it, and you're walking around just rocking a glass of white, little cheeky Chardonnay or something. Like, I could get around.
I love that he got on the radio and said congratulations to Nico, which was really nice as well. Seems like a good lad, this Portoletto.
I feel like he said something like, you're a fucking legend, something like it was a good message.
Well, he is. He's been in Formula One for a really long time. So
yeah, I've got after this we'll do a new segment, but
okay.
Yeah, really just I mean it again, Piastri saying that was the highlight of the day. Like it should be everybody's highlight of the year.
He was the driver of the day by 41%. Like
I haven't seen anything that one-sided for a long, long time. I haven't seen anything that one-sided since like Max Verstappen coming in P9 and all the Dutch fans and bots were just like
voting you for president
for no reason.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
We all liked it. Everyone liked that.
Everyone liked that. Like the meme.
I just don't know. Yeah, what? I suppose, have we ever really had anything about Hulkenberg that we don't like? No, I can never remember it's B-U-R-G or B-E-I-G. That always frustrates me. But yeah, we're happy for Nico
Like
Hulkenberg.
it's really just that. It's hard to just think of any characteristics that he has. Like good hair, but it's also like, who are you? Like what
Podium stander, Nico Hulkenberg.
podium getter? Before this, it was hard to think of anything that defined him as a person or a racer. He was kind of just like the guy who was just there.
Raced at lots of teams.
True.
It seems like he's been around for a long time, but that was his core characteristic. That's that's what's on his like top trumps like trading card.
And and then he was F1 sub
races.
for a while, and then like he was like spare driver, and then now this. So this is great.
Yeah, famously not friends with Kevin Magnussen, who I think
he was his lucky charm. He was there this weekend.
Yeah, why? Is he the backup driver for? I thought Valtteri Bottas was the backup driver for everyone. I thought that's what he did. Weird. Maybe they've got a really good friendship off the track. Maybe they were just ribbing each other
really
that day.
Good. Yeah, maybe.
You don't want to know how good. It's so good.
Yeah, okay. It's going to get dirty if I keep talking, so let's change the topic. New segment.
Yeah, tell me about your new segment. 100%.
There's a new segment called Quote of the Day. Play the theme. No, we don't have one. This is a quote of the day from an unexpected source, Lance Stroll. This is like, what would you call this? This is like the most Australian thing that I've heard a non-Australian say. This is what he told his engineer after the race. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
It's the worst piece of shit I've ever driven in my life, to be honest, but it's okay. And then the caption says Lance Stroll post-race talking to his engineer after finishing P7. It's the worst piece of shit I've ever driven in my life, to be honest, but it's okay.
But it's okay because I'm Canadian and that's weird.
Aussie Lance
Sorry.
Stroll.
Yeah. Wow. Can I come back to you with best quote of the day, which is an Oscar Piastri question to Nico Hulkenberg in the couch press conference. He says, "How does it feel being on the podium, but your trophy's made of Lego?"
I think he said you waited 15 years to get a podium and you get a Lego trophy.
You get a Lego trophy.
And I think he said, "Great answer. I love it, and my daughter can play with it."
Yeah, and I love Lego or something. Yeah, perfect. Like see, this is what I mean by the fact that I think Oscar Piastri is going to be a-okay, because I think even by then he was like, all right, well, let's win the next 5 races.
It is pretty funny that you got a Lego trophy though.
I just thought they were really cool little trophies. I didn't know they were Lego until they did a close up on one of them. I was like, oh wow, they're really intricate. That's really cool. But why is he getting 2? Oh, because one of them's Lego. Cool. Yeah. We haven't spoken about the medals, have we? Do you like the medals now that we're kind of halfway through the season? What do you think of these Formula One medals for the? No, okay.
What do you
think? I think we should go back to wreaths. And what do I was going to say we should
go back to wreaths. I like.
Well, why didn't you say that then? These are the.
I was letting you fill in the gaps. Sometimes I like to be like, what does Zach think that I think about that?
I think you hate
comment
them.
In the chat. Oscar fueled Oscar fueled with stream and rage, but still making jokes around. Exactly. Thank you, Ironfoot.
This is exactly right.
We haven't really talked about this, and we sometimes don't even talk about rumors, but this Verstappen leaving Red Bull rumor has really captured people's hearts and minds. Any thoughts about it? We don't need to linger on about this too long, but I just thought, what's going on there?
Well, there's always chat about like release clause stuff in his contract that if they're bad, if Red Bull's bad, he's allowed to go to someone that's good. It's essentially what the contract says. Like, if we're really bad and someone else is really good, they'll probably want you and you can go because you've done all this stuff for this team. How much more do they want to extract from him, right? And I think it's because they have nothing without Max Verstappen. There is no one as good as him. And I don't think anyone will want to go there right now because I don't think anyone thinks that they'll be able to get a lot out of that car. So any of the best drivers, and who are those? And who are the best drivers, Rod? Hamilton, probably.
Nico Hulkenberg, right up there.
Nico Hulkenberg.
Always liked him, never said a bad thing about him. Like, easy to define guy, winner.
Yep. Yeah,
definitely,
exactly.
Like, got the winning vibes.
He's win or nothing. That's why he's never got the podium.
There's been a lot of talk about the Red Bull development approach for the last couple of years, and it seems to me that this clause is probably not a new thing. It's probably been there for a while, and it seems to me like they have, at all costs and at all expense, done whatever Max Verstappen wanted to keep him in the team and keep him performing, getting some kind of points at the expense of the second driver. And I wonder whether him going will will just mean that the second driver just magically starts getting better. But also, if given where Red Bull are at, if Max Verstappen goes to any other team and says, "Right, now make me a car the way Red Bull did," they'd be like,
Ooh.
"Ooh, but we don't want to do that."
I know a guy who can make a car like that though, and who is slavishly devoted to their driver.
There's
Two
one
teams
guy.
I can think. No, I think there's two teams that will do this. I think
Okay.
Mercedes would do it. I think that Toto would love, love, love to have Max Verstappen at Mercedes. I think it would be perfect for the brand, perfect for him. I think that they would. I think he knows that he doesn't have a generational talent in the team right now. I think he really likes George Russell. I think everyone's. I'm really coming around to George Russell recently. I think
What?
he. I know. He seems
Wow.
to be
This
fighting
is
the good
huge.
fight. And maybe we should have dedicated more of the show to this. For a dweeby guy, he seems to have
With a
shared
punchable
interests to
face.
me. I've got a punchable face. He seems like he's got his head screwed on the right way more these days. And I'm here for it. And he's a good driver, but I don't think he's the best in the world. And Max Verstappen is that. I think if Toto Wolff could get rid of both of his drivers for one Max Verstappen, he would do it in a heartbeat. And so I think
If
that there's a chance that could happen. Or Aston Martin. That's the other one. But yeah.
if
What do you think?
Verstappen goes to Mercedes, that's a real Darth Vader of a team that I could not get behind at all.
Oh,
I can't see myself getting behind that team at all.
were you ever behind Mercedes?
More so than before they potentially had Darth Vader, Verstappen going there because they know he's a known quantity now, and to
Yeah.
willingly bring him in and want him to court him
He's the best
is
driver in the
like I
world.
would not
Why
respect
wouldn't
that.
you call it the best driver in the world? I think every team would be looking at it. You don't think so?
But well, and everyone can have their opinion. I just think that I would want them to fail.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think that's a good opinion. I think that partly Red Bull has this problem though, where I actually think that Max Verstappen is probably the supporting structure around that team right now. Like if he goes, there is no reason why there's nobody who could bring that team in and kind of unite them into the idea of like, you get behind me, I can probably make this team win again. I don't think there's anybody who can come into that team with the gravitas, energy, not
There's
just
one guy, but
gravitas,
we're
but
going to talk all
gravity.
about him in about 10 minutes or so.
Oh, well, there we are. Yeah, exactly. I know exactly who you're talking about. But I think that the team probably starts to fall apart because they don't really like if he goes and they start next season, we pick any driver you like, that they are not going to be like a top 4 team necessarily. I think that, and they don't, because look at how every single second driver has gone in this car. It is off the rails, this car. And I think that they lost the best car designer of the modern era to another team. And I don't think they know really what to do. Helmut Marko has continually proven that he cannot pick talent, except if it's glaringly obvious, which it definitely was with Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen. Everybody else has been fine. Yay, Pierre Gasly for doing okay finally. But there is nothing like he can pick talent that gets into Formula One, but that's self-fulfilling. If you keep giving drivers chances into Formula One, Formula One will keep putting them into cars. Like that's why Nico Hülkenberg has raced 7 million times and doesn't have a podium until yesterday. So there is more bad evidence for Helmut Marko's ability to pick a good racing driver than there is good evidence. And Christian Horner, no one seems to like him anymore. So what is this team now? If they're not winning championships and they're not winning constructors championships and they don't have a star performer, why do they exist? And I don't think they'll find anybody else. Like what? Colapinto? No. Sonoda? No. Lawson? No. Like there's no one. There isn't really anyone that they can go and pull from their own ranks. And I don't know like who they would go and pull from somewhere else. So yeah, I can see why they're fighting really hard to keep Max Verstappen. And if I was Max Verstappen, I'd be fighting really hard to leave because I don't think it's going anywhere.
So some things came to mind when this idea of a clause came up that he has to finish below third, so fourth or lower, and that George Russell was in fourth and the most likely contender to jump him in the constructors. I was like, George Russell, that guy that Max Verstappen deliberately drove into. That's kind of funny. And then, then you watch Verstappen spin behind the safety car this race, and you're like, wait a second. Wait a second. Just saying. I'm just saying.
Just saying.
It's a bit weird that he does that stuff. And Does he want to go? Because he
Yep.
sort of seems like he wants to go.
Yep.
And then, like I say, where would he want to go? Apparently, like the one of the rumors was Aston, but I think
Mm.
apparently they've reconfirmed for next year, same driver lineup. Mercedes, the other question mark. I mean, George Russell's obviously been like, "Bring it on! I'll race against
Yeah.
whoever. Bring it! Like you
Yeah.
put me up against anybody, and I'll take him on." I'm like, "Yeah, but George will lose." But he seems keen for it. But then, I mean, is he keen enough to be like, "Well, go out there and beat him, mate, and then
Mm.
you'll be free. You might get your
Yeah.
chance."
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Well,
Anyway, some interesting dynamics came from that.
yeah. I think you got to trust your gut sometimes here, and I think that this story has run its course now. I think
Yeah.
that the Max Verstappen, he's like, I've done everything for this team. It's not as good as it used to be. Why would I stay? He's as I said, he's the best driver in the world. He should go. He probably. Why wouldn't he want a new challenge if he's
Why
done with
wouldn't he
this?
want to go to
He probably
McLaren?
doesn't. Yeah, maybe. Well, maybe. Except Zach Brown loves his sons,
He
so
does.
he doesn't want to change anything. I think there's one guy who. Well, they said. I think someone posed that question to him, right? If Max Verstappen wanted to come, would you come either? And he said, no. We've got a great team. They like each other, and we're a team. So why would you do
Kind of
anything
touching
about
on what we just said before. Do you think this is a question from the chat? Do you think Merck would do a car that fully fits Max's feedback like Red Bull, or stay balanced because of what Red Bull suffer with the second car? I think that whatever team he goes to, I mean, first of all, there's going to be a heap of money involved,
it? Mm-hmm.
and they're just going to do whatever he asks, unless it's. I mean, like obviously, I thought Hamilton going to Ferrari might be like that, where Hamilton will rock up and be like, I'm not here for a fucking haircut, guys. So make the car the way I say." And then I thought that that might be the way that went, but it doesn't seem like they've gone that way at all.
Mm.
But I think any other team, yes, any other team, he walks in and says, "I will drive faster if you make the car do this," and they will do it.
Yeah, I also think that Mercedes is probably the team that has enough of all the teams and all the resources and a new formula coming in. I think that they're probably desperate for some feedback because they don't really know what's wrong with their
Probably.
car. And I think that they would have enough resource. I mean, they did it with Hamilton and Rosberg for ages. You know, that car was not built for either of them. It was an excellent car. McLaren's doing it right this second. I think that's what's being proved right now is that I think not a misconception. I think it's right that Red Bull is correct analysis that Red Bull are making a car that suits Max Verstappen, but I think it's a bad car. So the things that they're doing to suit Max Verstappen are literally the only way to be successful. Because if I had the best driver in the world, I would do everything I could. If I had
Yeah.
the best driver in the world and some guy, Yuki Tsunoda, who's a
Some
pretty good driver, then what are you going to do? If you know your car is crap, you make changes that improve it for the guy who has the most chance of winning races or getting points. And so when you get to Mercedes and they're like, car's fine, it's okay, but we can't wait for you to come and tell us what needs to improve, Max and George, because we'll make a great car and then we'll make tweaks like every good team does. So I don't think that anybody needs to design the car so holistically about Max Verstappen. I think that Red Bull for the last few seasons have been struggling with pace as the kind of platform for their car. And it's only Max who's been able to extract any value out of it. And I don't think that will be the case at Mercedes or McLaren or even, I mean, Aston Martin's still not very good. I don't know if they'll ever work that car out. But I think if he goes to Mercedes, I would assume him and Russell will have a good season.
Yeah, I think it'd be Russell too.
Hmm.
All right. I don't know if there's any other stories you want to talk about. There's Cadillac, which the rumors around that are heating up. But again, I don't want to do too much rumor talk because every time you talk for 10 minutes about rumors, it turns out to be wrong. And it's like, what a friggin' waste of time. So when there's something more concrete there, I'd be keen to get into Cadillac stuff, but not today's not the day.
So from one American to another.
Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Settle up. Tell me about your viewing experience of the F1 movie. F1.
You know what I did? I sat down in the cinema with my wife.
Here's what I did. I thought I'll sit facing the screen. I'll treat myself and look
at
the screen this time.
Sat to face the screen. Second thing I noticed, the next guy who walked into the cinema after me was wearing a Red Bull cap. And I was like, I wonder if it's that kind of vibe. It wasn't. He was the only guy wearing a Red Bull cap. He was on his own as well. So good for him. And then the third thing that struck me is that I don't think there's any other films that are named after the sport. There is no NBA film. There's not even basketball, the movie. It's weird that it's called F1. I can't stop thinking about it.
We'll get into what we think more about the movie, but I have some contenders for other names. But
okay.
Before we're going to talk about F1 the
Mhm.
movie. This is going to be a spoiler-free zone. We're going to do
Mhm.
spoilers later, though. So this gives you the opportunity, dear listener. If you want to hear spoilers, you'll get them later. If you don't want spoilers, we will make it very clear when we're going to talk about spoilers. But yeah, okay. So
Straight
you went to
after the
the
theme music, right? Get to
after
the
we're
end
going
of
to
the
end
theme
the
music. We'll
show,
be there.
and then we're going
Yep.
to get into spoilers. You went to the cinema. Did you go to the
Mhm.
IMAX?
No, God, no,
No.
no, no, no. That's
Okay.
that's a lot of money to go and do that. I have to go into
Oh
central
yeah,
London, go to the British Film Institute, and go. That's
yeah.
saved
Wow. How about
for
that?
I don't know the IMAX experience, Rod. I save for big cinematic events like it,
Like
perhaps a
like this. This is it, Barry.
no, perhaps a
I
Star
went to
War.
IMAX, by the way.
I know you did. I don't know if you go to the cinema not at IMAX anymore because I feel like the last few films we've spoken about, you're like, oh yeah, I'm seeing it at IMAX.
What have I seen in IMAX? A few things. I saw Warfare,
Mm.
which I hated, and then I saw this, which, yeah, I don't know. It's not a spoiler alert. My opinion is not a spoiler alert. Didn't like this
Mm.
movie. Real
Oh
bad.
wow, real
It's
bad.
really bad.
I am not. I'm partly surprised. I had wondered if you might share some of the emotional reactions that I shared,
Talk
which
me
is
through
it's
it.
not
Get me there.
okay. Here we go. I thought that seeing some of the things that I love about Formula One in cinescope, in a cinematic way, when not a spoiler, but like seeing Eau Rouge like that with everybody jogging up it, and I was like, yeah, man, that's it. I want your opinion on this as well because you and I have spoken at length on this show over many years about the kind of what Formula One is and what it represents and why it's special. And I think if you look at this film and you look at the places that it focused on and the races they chose to elevate and the vibe that it tried to produce is actually not at all how Formula One is moving. Like the races they pick, that I don't think these are spoilers either, but correct me if I'm wrong. But we've got the calendar, right? But we're talking about Japan and Monza and the Hungaroring. And yeah, there's Vegas on the list as well, and Abu Dhabi. But I actually think the Yas Marina is becoming synonymous with Formula One. I actually think it's
Yeah,
it's been around
that
for
was
a long
fun.
time, and I think it is a season ender that people know. Um, and so all of these races are like Harken and Spa. This is Formula One heritage. And I don't think that's just a nod to get Formula One fans on board. That is like, this is what this sport is. This is why it's famous. And this is its history. And this is what makes it special. And it's not racing around a car park in Miami. It's not 6 more Petro State races. It's none of that. It is this like inbuilt, like somewhat Eurocentric, like brought to the world writ large in its heritage. And those things made me a little bit emotional. I liked seeing them on the screen. I liked sharing that with other people in the room and kind of being like, yeah, we all like this thing, right? It's all special, and it means something. And when my wife and I walked out, she was like, I think I get a little bit more about why you like this sport now. That was somewhat unprompted. And she's like, and I also, for the first time, fully understand what you mean by it's a team sport. And I think that's something that this will do a little more than I think that sometimes Drive to Survive will do. And I liked that the film sometimes made it like was kind of looking out the corner of its eye, Drive to Survive a little bit. So yeah, I thought it put a sport in sharp relief in front of more people in a way that I found energizing and emotional. I really liked that aspect of it.
Yeah, interesting.
Tell me why you hated it.
It's so bad. God, it's a bad movie.
It's a
It's
bad movie.
terrible. I'm gonna also just throw in words like good or bad, and I want to also acknowledge that I understand this is completely subjective and a matter of taste, and you can't really argue taste. Some people will, I'll say that some things are bad. Some people will be like, but that's what I liked about the movie.
If this is your
But
first episode of Super License, this might strike you as odd. But if
yeah,
you've been listening ever,
you ever
uh,
heard me talk about anything?
this is how it goes.
This is what I am. This is me, unfiltered. This is a bad movie. It's the story's bad. The
Mm-hmm.
storytelling is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Predictable, cliche.
Mm-hmm.
And the story, we'll get into maybe in the spoilers, the full story, but like the like people are coming out of this movie, and the people who like it seem to say it's not a documentary. You can't get too hung up on the little mistakes. And I was like, right, that's true, But there's
Mm.
absolutely big mistakes and little mistakes, and the storytelling is not to my liking. And I'm not proud that this is the way the sport is being taken to the world on the silver screen. Not proud that that's the ad for my sport.
Interesting. I am not going to disagree with you that it's cliched, but I also don't think that you can expect an action film like this these days to be anything but that. Like there aren't any that subvert the category. There aren't really any action films that do anything. We are on repeat. We've been on repeat with every Jurassic Park film for years and years and years and years, and they're all
Yeah, I guess the
successful.
last
We're
time
on
I saw a
repeat
Jurassic
with,
Park film,
yeah, I don't know, the second
maybe
one.
30 years,
Yeah,
because I don't
exactly.
watch
Yeah,
formulaic movies
exactly.
that are
Yeah,
boring.
yeah. Well, I know, but I don't think Paul Thomas Anderson was going to be making the Formula One film. Jerry Bruckheimer is
Missed
making the Formula
opportunity.
One film. Yeah, I know, right? We wouldn't
But
have seen any racing.
but I haven't. So here's the thing: have you seen Top Gun, the Maverick?
No, because I had
Because I
no
haven't,
interest
but
in
everyone
seeing that.
says it's great, and it's
Yeah,
fan service, and we just loved it. And I was like, right,
yeah,
that was what I was hoping, that this would be
yeah.
fan service, and that I would come out going cheesy, dumb, fun, and I loved it. Instead,
Mm.
I came out of it, that's just dumb, and I didn't like it.
Yeah, I think it's probably because it's too close to you. Like, do you think that pilots walk out of Top Gun going like, "That's exactly what it's like, baby.
I
Yeah,
know,
finally, my
I'm not,
my my
not
fighter
a
pilot
pilot.
life has been writ large on the big screen." No, I think this is perfectly squarely for people who are like, I have a vague interest in Formula One. I like Bradley Pitts. I think this will
Bradley
be a
Pitt.
fun romp,
We're
and
getting
it
into we're
is.
getting into something interesting here now, because who is the movie for? Is it
It's
for F1
for,
fans?
yes,
Doesn't seem to be.
but that's like, but
They got so many things wrong. How could it be for F1 fans?
I don't think they got. I think that any Formula One fan will understand why some things need to be a MacGuffin, why some things need to be a plot device, and and I think there is a lot in the film that people find difficult to maybe explain to non-Formula One fans why they like the thing, or there are intricacies in there that you're like, okay, well, yeah, that is actually how the sport is won and lost. I actually think that that's how that thing has to go, and you have to still suspend your disbelief a little bit. You don't go to Pirates of the Caribbean expecting to be like, well, you can't trim the sails like that. That's not how a sailboat works. Boats don't go
Yeah, but
underwater.
Zach, there's no real Pirates of the Caribbean, but there is real F1. So you
And that's
can't
the
make that
problem, right? They did
comparison,
call the
right?
film F1. They didn't call it race car.
That's what I'm talking about. This is a
Yeah.
film called F1. It has the full backing and blessing of the sport. It's produced by the driver who has had the most success of the sport
Mm.
in the entire existence of the sport.
Yep.
There are little things that they got wrong. There's little things they got wrong, but
Give me
there's
a non-spoilery
huge things.
example.
When there's a virtual safety car, the
Mm-hmm.
marshals do not go on the track and sweep it.
No, they don't.
That's an example of a small thing that if you're an F1 person, you're like, what? No,
Yeah.
that's not how
Yeah.
you do that.
Plot MacGuffin.
No,
Yeah, it just has to be there. Yeah.
there's way bigger things, but I can't get into it until we get into spoilers.
But
But like,
I think that is a really good example of plot MacGuffin. And I think that it doesn't matter. And I don't think that anybody who watches Formula One would go, well, so that's immediately massive plot hole. It's like, I know, but the idea of how this film has to be made is that the sport doesn't function like this. If it did, if the sport was genuinely this exciting, you could make a documentary about it, but it isn't. And it's not how this
But
works. And the
here's one
whole
of the
premise of the film doesn't work. So at that point, when you walk in and sit down and the premise is fucking Sonny Hayes, who has no racing pedigree, doesn't have a super license,
yeah,
and doesn't have anything about him, can walk into a Formula One team with no training, no skills, hasn't driven a Formula One car in 30 years.
yeah.
Rod, the film doesn't make sense. Of course
Turns out
it doesn't.
he's better at everyone's job than they
So
are.
if
Crazy.
you stop there, if you cannot get on board with the core premise established in the first 10 minutes, then of course the film is not for you. Of course it isn't.
Then who's
Just
the
like
film
in
for?
Willy Wonka, if
That's
you
what I'm
can't get
saying.
into the idea that there is a chocolate factory that is magical, then you can't.
Zach,
But
the
like
film's
all
called
action
F1.
films,
The film's
I know
called
it
F1.
is. I know
Not
it is.
not underdog wins and we all feel good. The film's called F1.
but that is, I think it was exactly what actually, it was more than what I expected it to be. Because I was so low going in. If you hadn't said, hey, let's talk about this on the show, I'm not sure I would have gone to the cinema to see it. That is how low my expectation was of this film. I was not excited about it until that opening sequence at the 24-hour Daytona. And I was like, oh, hey, racing. That's interesting and good.
Well, so, okay. So I said I was talking about alternate titles that would be better.
Yes.
Here's a better title than F1. Here's a better title. You ready? Brad Pitt. The movie. Brad Pitt knows everything, gets everything right, and suffers basically no consequences, and everything goes right for him. The movie.
Yep. Action film.
Pretty interesting movie, right? Wouldn't you like to see a movie about a guy who is great at everything and nothing goes wrong for him, gets everything that he wants? What a great movie.
That's why the James Bond films are essentially just called James Bond, because that's what happens in James Bond films. No retribution, nothing wrong. Gets the girl every single time. Yeah, exactly.
The problem, but Brad Pitt does interviews, right? And they're like, "Tell me about working with Lewis Hamilton." And he's like, "Lewis Hamilton's amazing. He was helping us to edit the movie, making sure we got everything right." Yep. And he'd be like, "Oh, when you drive through that corner, you go through in fifth gear, not fourth gear." And he's like, "That's the level of detail that he brought." I'm like, "Bro, don't even talk to me about the level of detail in this movie. Don't even start, because this movie, like you even just said, this movie is it's not meant to be accurate. It's meant to be stupid escapism." But it's not stupid escapism, the movie. It's enough. F1, the movie.
Yeah, because that's the only thing.
Not even enough. It's not that at all.
Yeah. I 100% see what you're saying.
We'll get into more in spoilers. The other thing, like, if you want to finish that thought, that's fine. But I wanted to get into the representation of women in the movie.
It doesn't pass the Bechdel test. Is that what you're about to tell me?
Well, everyone's talking about this as well, but I've got good opinions about it, I think. So, yeah.
Okay, well, then tell me I love that. I've got good opinions. Let me tell them about you.
Well, I mean, I think they're well formed.
You definitely do. Of course they are. You're a great film critic. Genuinely. I was excited to have this conversation with you because I knew you would be able to tell me.
People realize that I'm like academically qualified to talk about film more than F1. I'm more qualified to talk about movies than F1.
Exactly. Whereas I'm actually academically qualified to talk about Brad Pitt specifically.
What did you think about the depiction of women in motorsport, in the motorsport?
I think that, like everything in this film, it had to be a caricature of it. Like, that was the thing, that it is the bad espresso version of all of this. I don't think that. I think a clumsy engineer arc.
This is one of them.
Is tricky. Because it could have been anyone, and I really don't like it when we purposefully shove a lot of like diversity into one thing. I was to what feels like tick a box, but it's like, that'll be a more relatable character, and we have to have two women in this film. We can't have one.
No, there's a few in there, and some of them are okay. But I mean, it's interesting who are the good ones and who are the not so good ones, but also the subtleties of it. But I mean, I don't think it's a spoiler because it happens very early. But there's a female engineer, like, working the wheel gun, and she makes a mistake, leaves the gun on the ground, the car drives over it, and it's a problem. And they put her on blast, and Brad Pitt stands up for her and says, "Look, don't beat yourself up about it. Your fault. Everything's going to be fine." And then later when they're alone, she says to him, "Don't say those things because it makes it look like I need you to stand up for me." And I was like, this is it. They've done it. We're actually going to have great representations of women in the movie. And it was all downhill from there, more or less, because it just gets worse and worse. And unfortunately, the success of all of the female characters in the film is pretty much directly tied to them doing what Brad Pitt tells them they should do.
Yeah, the only other interpretation on that would be like, he's a do what you do best character. He's like, if you're truer to you, then you will be more successful because I'm truest to me. And if only we operate like a team, or you can be the best that you can be, then that will work really well for this. But I think that's partly the attempted kind of poking fun at the sport realism, because even like the team principal, what's his face? What's he called? Well, even the fact that like Ruben as the
owner,
the swashbuckling owner,
Javier Bardem, suave.
Yes, exactly. Like even that is that's poking fun at the sport. Yeah.
Well, I
or
mean, the
even
most realistic
Flavio
thing, like you talk
Briatore,
about,
you know,
you talk
like
about the realism of it. The most realistic thing was when we get our first shots of of some on track action, and there's finally standing alongside of the track a shot of an old white man, and I was like, well, finally some realism in this movie.
well, the other realism I think is like that, like Casper, the team principal. And I was racking my brain what I knew him from. We walk out, and Hammer goes, "That's the other cop from the bridge," and I was like, "Oh, that's not Saralund or whatever the Saga. No, Sega. Sega is the other
No,
woman.
the other
Is
one,
the other cop, but he's the kind of bumbly, do things
the
in
fun
your
one.
own gray area way cop." But I thought he was the perfect like odd team principal. Is like a long time ago I was really good, but now I think that was fun and interesting, but that storyline didn't necessarily go where I expected it to go either. I think there was a
No,
more cliched storyline in there that the movie could have done and then it didn't.
yeah.
um
And then
but
the
yeah,
one strong-ish sort of female character, the only one who stands up to Brad Pitt and is correct, is the mother of the rookie. She's
yep.
great and a great actress, and the role was well written. Like, I don't know whether you thought the film was funny. Genuinely, the only laugh that was in my cinema was when she first sees that picture of Brad Pitt, and she's like, "Ooh, look at this guy." But she's the only one who stands up to him and is correct and has a moment of strength and authentic an authentic character moment. And
Mm,
unfortunately, it comes from the mother of the driver, not who is a very motherly mother, like cooks meals for her son, has his like protects him, stands up for him. Like it reinforces the worst kind of female stereotype that it possibly could.
yeah, but is also in the audience, that her reaction is built on not having all the information.
Yes, exactly. Sure, sure.
So
And
it's
she
it's
like
totally
no one can
undermined.
reason with her because she's
It's
flying. Like,
yeah, it's totally undermined in the moment, and I was like,
that's
oh,
true.
I'm thinking like, yeah, this reaction is all fine, but you also don't have all the information, and it's only there so that another character can have a different arc later in the
Yeah,
film,
yeah,
to
sure.
have their own journey of self-development.
Hmm.
And none of them talk to each other because they're not allowed, because it's a film about Bradley Pitt. So what would they talk about?
Yeah.
Him? Because there's nothing else in the film, and that's what I find really, how this film is made influences what it is so much. And I think that's why we might have slightly different opinions of it, which is that it isn't a documentary, but it's trying to be, because it did something really difficult, which is it's using all of Formula One over the last few years as the story, as the backdrop, and using Formula One things like, oh, that's McLaren's headquarters. Why are they in there? Would you take offense at that too? Where you're like, oh, no, they picked the most interesting Formula One building because it's Formula
Why would I
One.
take offense to the choice of a building? That's what.
Because that's
Who
not
cares?
really, because that's not real. It's the same as the safety car, virtual safety car people. It's like, that's the McLaren headquarters. Why would
Well,
Apex be in the McLaren headquarters? That's
but one is based
stupid.
on something authentic, and the other one's just factually inaccurate.
But that is factually inaccurate. Like, where is the McLaren team if they're not at their headquarters, if Apex are in their
Well,
headquarters?
it looks exactly like an F1 headquarters does because it is one. So I had no problem with that.
Oh, yeah, I see. I will put that in the virtual safety car sweepers
Oh,
category,
okay, right.
because it
Okay, right.
is the exact same inaccuracy level.
What
Like,
about
it is
okay? So there was this story of the screening, a previous screening that they had with the drivers, and they're like,
Mm,
there's a scene with a car and it hits a certain thing and does a thing, and all of the drivers cracked up laughing because of how cartoonish and inaccurate it was. And then when
yeah,
it happened in the movie, I was like, yeah, this
yeah.
is definitely the scene. This is definitely the scene. Cars don't do that when they hit a tiny
I
little
want to
bump.
I want to save that for spoilers, because I've
All
got
right,
and
get into that
I
more
had a
then.
reaction to that I think is interesting. Yeah, no, the point I
Um,
was going to make is that I just love that no Formula One driver spoke in the whole film, um, which is
didn't
great.
Fernando Alonso come over and say congratulations, Sonny, or he
That
said
might be
something?
the
It was
only.
kind of inaudible, but yeah,
Oh no, I think yeah, it's not a speaking part. I don't think it
yeah.
would be in the script.
Probably a
And the
deliberate
only
non-speaking thing because then you got to pay them union.
you got to
I
pay
mean, and
them.
these F1 drivers, it's
Mm.
ridiculous.
But there is
Um,
it's this odd feeling that this is somehow happening in the world in a vacuum, that no one else is engaged in any way, shape, or form. Like, you
yeah.
can't, like,
Oh,
hey, can
that's
you?
another thing that I wanted to bring up. Well, this is not a spoiler either, but all of the races
Mm,
completely focused around Apex Racing as
mhm,
if nothing else happened to any other car.
mm,
They all just started in the exact same position that they finished. And
mhm,
the only interesting stuff was around
mm,
their team. I truly felt that it could have been greatly improved, by having other things happen besides just what happened to that team. And I know people will say, but this is a story about Apex Racing. You don't want to be too distracting. But they could easily have peppered in a few things to
About
make
what? To what
the
end?
races feel real.
But why? Like to make the
To
races
make the
feel
races
real.
feel real, Zach. I just said
But
it.
what? But yeah. But what information would you give to make the races feel real? Talk about who won.
Literally anything. Someone gets a puncture. It's like, just
Sorry,
anything.
the film is so full of punctures already. There was no more room.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, other things could have happened that influence, but then they wouldn't have been. That's not the story of the film. The story of the film is how Apex, like how you can make your own luck, forge your own destiny, and be a hero and a team player at the same time. Like it's Disney. Like I don't know it's Apple. Like this is the problem that every Apple TV show has. That like this is if anything they should have gone more Ted Lasso on this than they did. Because that would have been
to the movie as they made it, man. I can't.
I know you can. I know, and this is why you don't like Ted Lasso either. Like, and football fans watch Ted Lasso and go, "That's not how football works." But it's incredibly famous and it's incredibly well loved. And I think that there is a reason why this film has 79 on Rotten Tomatoes because people are walking out of it going, "That's pretty fun." Yeah. That was a self-contained storyline that made sense in its universe. Great.
It's making a bit of money, and it's hitting some success, which I'm glad about. And I've seen posts. This is what I was. Maybe we should start with like wrapping up this section a little bit. But yeah, I saw posts online from people saying, "I didn't know anything about it, and I just went to see it, and I loved it. And then I watched Drive to Survive, and now I'm going to watch races. I'm a fan now." And I was like, "Perfect.
That's the game.
Great." I wish we could have had that, but also had a better movie. But I'm thrilled that people are seeing it and reacting to it and coming away with something positive and just it's sparking some curiosity or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's a good thing. It's obviously I went into the movie not thinking that's what it was, but it's become very clear that is exactly what it was. It's like Drive to Survive. It's not for F1 people. Ironically, it's not at all for them.
I think the idea that F1 people is a thing is now dead. I don't think you can. I don't know what the term F1 people means anymore. Because I feel that in Formula One fandom already. And people think I'm F1 people. And I don't know if what you think of F1 people or what you and I might think of as F1 people who do know who was on pole at Spa 2 years ago when I could not tell you a crash or an incident from last season. Like I'm not F1 people then. And so the people who make up that F1 people audience, no, I know. Look, I'm just trying to come around to the point here, which is my whole life, right? Trying to come around to the point on this show. That audience is so small that it's insignificant. They were never going to make enough money off a film that was for F1 people. Just like Moneyball is not for baseball people.
Yeah, and again, this movie obviously was intended to be an ad for the sport, so it's intended to be for not F1 people.
Yeah, that was overwhelming my feeling. I said that to Amber coming up the stairs out of the cinema. I said that is a long 2.5 hour ad for a sport, which is why it's called F1. They didn't even call it Formula One. They called it F1, and they used the logo. That does not happen. As I said, I cannot imagine a film being called NBA with the NBA logo produced by, Steph Curry. No, they make Space Jam. That's what happens if you want to do a basketball film.
Right. Well,
so
yeah,
I'm so glad that this show's opinion is that it's a 2 out of 5.
Well, I don't know. I feel like you're raising the average. I feel like
you will give it a 1.
What are you saying? It's 3 out of 5?
I think I said it's about 2.5 out of 5. My letterbox will be 2.5.
I don't understand your ratings at all. You said you like this movie.
Yeah.
Why aren't you giving it a good rating?
That is a good
2
rating.
out of 5 is 2 out of 5 is barely worth watching.
2.5. It's a pass. It's good. Yeah, but I went and saw it and it was fine. I would never watch it again. Would I suggest people go and see it? Do you like action films? And do you like Brad Pitt? If you like those two things, go and see the film. If you are not the kind of person who would go and see Top Gun Maverick or a Marvel film, don't go and see this. What are you expecting it to be? It's definitely not Moneyball. So if you're like, I like sports films, I like Moneyball, I kind of like The Last Dance on Netflix, as a series, as a documentary series, name another sport movie.
The more normcore your movie tastes are, the more you're going to like this movie. It's as simple as that.
Exactly. You like Friday Night Lights? Come and watch this film. You like the Mission Impossible movies, you'll like
Spoiler
this.
talk coming very, very soon. Other than that, if you want to zone out now, that's absolutely fine. We'll do a quick wrap up. You can find everything that we do at superlicense.fm. This week, the FM stands for Zach.
Film Mavericks, which
Film
is
Mavericks,
this is exactly how Jared Bruckheimer thinks of himself as a producer.
I want to say a big thank you to everyone that supports the show on Patreon. We haven't done that for a while, so I'll try and think of something a little bonus to sneak out for you very soon because it's been a while. But yeah, thank you, people. If you want to follow us, we're on Threads, we've got a cheeky little Discord if you want to slip in there and tell us your predictions, who you think is going to win pole, win 10th, etc. All kinds of fun stuff. It's fun. We're fun, despite the vibes I give off that make everybody sad.
They don't make everyone.
We
sad.
have fun.
Look, every movie review needs a dissenter. Otherwise, everything would be a 5 out of 5 all the time, right?
It's true. Not everything can be good.
Even toothpaste needs 1 out of 10 dentists who don't agree. It adds authenticity to the reviews.
All right. Well, we're going to absolutely spoiler it up in a minute. So, like, if this is where you zone out again, thank you for listening. We'll talk to you next time. I'm going to play some theme music and then we'll kick off. But we'll be back. So don't go anywhere if you want to hear spoilers about the movie. All done, Zach. We're happy to leave it there.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, until 1 minute from now, I've been Rod.
I've been Zach.
And we'll see you on the flip side if this is where you're leaving us. Bye-bye.
Give me a most spoilery thing. Like, what's the thing that was eating you up inside that you're like, I really want to say this thing? And it's a massive spoiler.
How can you watch the end of that movie where one driver deliberately drives into another driver and knocks them out so that his teammate can win and think that's number one, that's a good moral to the story. And number two, that is in any way a realistic representation of literally anything.
I mean, it's definitely never happened in Formula One, right? That someone would purposely crash to either.
It did. Do you remember what happened? Do you remember what happened to the people involved in that incident? They got banned for life, Zach.
Except he's definitely not banned for life.
It was they got the biggest sporting fine in the history of the world.
I know, but it's
not how you end the fucking movie.
Look, sometimes people drive into people on purpose, like Max Verstappen did on George Russell very recently. Didn't get banned for life. Interesting.
He didn't knock George Russell out of the race either.
Well,
and
he's definitely driven into enough people on.
Stewards were like,
this is it, right? This is what happened in the film. He did enough to mask it. You know,
so many things in that movie that were so predictable.
Oh yeah,
like playing the poker, throw down my card. I'm not going to show you my cards. I'm like, he's definitely got better cards than the other guy. He's definitely got better cards than the other guy.
Yes, of course.
And then he did. Wow, big surprise.
Yeah.
The guy running on the treadmill hooked up to all the things while Brad Pitt just sweats it out jogging around the track. I'm like, well, he's going to end up jogging by himself, not hooked up to stuff.
He's going to pick up the tennis balls at some point, right?
To fix his hands while Brad Pitt just throws balls. He's clearly going to end up just throwing balls. It was so predictable and shit. That is shit storytelling. That is that's an outright, like I said at the end, that is a bad movie. That is objectively a bad narrative, told badly.
Oh, I know.
Well, you say you know, but 5 minutes ago you were like, "No, Rod, you're just wrong. This is a great movie."
Because I never said it was a great movie.
Why is it immaterial?
Because I think all of those small things are just there to make it really obvious what the point is, and you need 3 examples of a thing to be like, "Oh, look, he's like." It's basically a montage. Like action films have montages that you're trying to force through a change of a character in a film, and you just need a couple of little things that show that he's changing.
Slow down. In what way did Brad Pitt change?
No, I'm not saying Brad Pitt changed. No, it's all about
he's the fucking central character, bro.
No, is he though? Because it's about how he hasn't.
Yes.
Well, okay, so he has changed in that. I think that the story is trying to be like, okay, he learned this really horrible lesson, and he's decided that it's not for him, right? He doesn't need the win. You know, the whole thing. What are you here for? Like, that's the whole story. What are you here for? What are you here for? What are you here for? And he finally comes to the conclusion that's like, you know what? I do need a bit of closure on this. If I shouldn't have done all that stupid shit. And yeah, it's one thing to just chase driving and to chase the thrill, but really I want to fly. And, you know, I know, right?
Oh, I was so angry.
I know.
I want to fly.
But did you not work out that you were going to KFC? Like, this is it. Like, why did you order fried chicken and get annoyed that the chicken has been fried? This is the
Because
film.
it was the F1 meal made by F1 for F1.
Yes.
Like, you know, it was
And
marketed as the most F1 meal there ever is.
And what part of the F1 brand has told you
Because
that
it was
it is
just
not
because it was
cheesy?
just shitty KFC marketed as F1.
But I think that's what F1 kind of a lot of the time is.
Well,
Actually, like, you
I'm
cannot sit
judging
here
it
with a straight
accordingly.
face and tell people that Formula One is the most exciting sport in the world. You cannot make an action film about Formula One. It doesn't exist because it is not told in one race. And the best racing films are like about about Le Mans.
Well,
And the
let
other
me ask you
only
this then.
good Formula One film is
I was going to
Rush,
say, why does everybody love Rush?
because it's taken out of time, it's taken out of context, and it's about a
Why do
genuinely
F1
interesting
people love
thing that
Rush?
happened. Because it's
You
about
think it's all
it's
nostalgia?
well, because it's about one of the most interesting things that is part of like Formula One lore. Like that is
Mm.
like and I think that's why people like it, because it's about Formula One lore. It's about something. That's why people like Senna the documentary, because
But
it's
everybody
about
else
something in
likes
the
it too.
sport. Of course they do. It's got a Hemsworth, and other
So
guy whose
what's
name I can never
stopping
remember.
F1 the movie being that? But
Because
better.
there's no story to tell.
Well,
What true story?
It's someone got paid a lot of money to write a story.
No, but that's why Rush is good, because it's a true story. Because people go like, "Wow, that actually happened. We're seeing behind the scenes of two men's journeys, right?"
So,
But Formula One doesn't have this story.
but here's the fun thing about making a movie: you can make up whatever story you want.
I know,
So
but
why did they make up this story?
you're asking now. These are two different questions now. So why do people love Rush? Because it's a
Mm.
real story. That's it, what happened is what
It
happened.
was a real story. Yes, that's
We are
true.
getting the dramatized version of something that was really horrible. And at that point, he was like, Niki Lauda's still alive.
Yes.
It is, and it's Formula One's just kind of picking up a little bit of momentum again in the zeitgeist, and it's got big famous actors in it, or Chris Hemsworth at least, and so it spoke about a time, and it could play with some of Formula One, but could play with the energy of Formula One. Whereas because this film is set now and had to be set now, but there are no stories from the last 15 years of racing that are worth telling in a film journey like that. Like pick a story that exists in Formula One that you'd be like, that would make a great film, actually. A weird FIA call at the last race to give Max Verstappen the title? No. Grosjean's crash? You can't make a whole film about that. It barely made a whole episode of Drive to Survive. Like, this is the thing. There's nothing in this sport to tell a story about. There's nothing in most sports to tell a story about.
That's like saying, there's so many movies that at the heart of it, or on the surface, are about nothing, but the heart of the story, there's something going on. So, like, why couldn't that be done? Huh?
Yeah, this one doesn't have that. I agree with you. Why can't that be done for this film?
Why, like what I was saying before is, why do F1 people watch Rush and go, you got it. You got everything you had to get right, you got right. Yeah, you play around the edges, or you Hollywoodize it up a bit. But the important things that you had to get right, you got right. I don't understand why F1 the movie couldn't have done exactly the same thing, but just gotten the small stuff right at least. And I just can't defend at all the end of the movie. Like, I can't get past it because they fucking cheated and it's celebrated. I don't get it.
I don't think they cheated that much. I think
Well, here's the thing. I mean, the stewards, even if you suspend your disbelief enough to think, oh, the stewards didn't see it that way, the arc of the rookie character is that he learns that not everything's about him and he needs to sacrifice himself for the good of the team and for the good of his teammate. So the emotional truth of it is that he did cheat.
Yeah, I actually don't think that's why they did it. I think that they actually do it to surprise you. Like, I was genuinely surprised that happened. I thought the story was going to be that Sonny, even though he wanted to do something about it, that his whole arc is about winning the Formula One race.
That is such a better story.
What, that he doesn't win? No,
that he would have failed.
No, that I think that the whole
but succeeded
cliche,
in a more fulfilling way.
Exactly. That's the cliche. I think that is 100% the cliche.
What we got was the cliche.
That he sacrifices himself. That Sonny, in the final moment, is like, yes, you know what? You go for the win, JP. I mean, he's been presaging it the whole film. He's like, you get out there and win this thing. You do what I say and you'll be great. That's the whole film. That's the conclusion that everyone's waiting for. And you know what? The next scene is he's not even there. He's disappeared without a trace. And then the Baja scene still happens. That's the film. The fact that he won is the only thing that surprised me about that whole end. Because I saw the next film. I saw the next scene in my head already. Everyone knows he's going to drive to Baja and do the thing. Everyone knows he's going to slink out. He's not taking Kate with him. He's not going to be team principal somewhere.
But that's what I mean by the character not really having any growth, because he came in a loner, no friends, driver for hire, left, learning nothing, exactly the same attitude to everything, fuck everything, and I'm just gonna do it for the love of driving, man.
Yeah,
there's actually one interesting bit of ambiguity. Literally, the only thing that I would give the film credit for is his card. He's got his little card in his pocket, and it's one time someone says, "Wait, what card you got?" He's like, "What card?" Like it's, and then it gets to the end, and he pulls out the card and looks at it and smiles, but you don't get to see. Like, I'm not saying it's Christopher Nolan level, but at least they tried with one tiny little element to do something interesting. Like what? Was it a Joker? Was it a King? Was it an Ace? Lucky Seven? Like it just makes you think about something. Literally, that was the only thing that after the movie I was like, that was one tiny little bit of thing that was interesting. But the billions of other things that were so like making me want to like claw my eyes out, it was not worth it.
Yeah, I feel sorry for you in that sense, because I think that I think this is like going to Disney World, this film, and I agree with you that it is not.
I would love
trying
going to Disney
position.
World, for the record.
I'm not saying you wouldn't, but I think that the idea that you're right, that so much of this film's build up and its whole identity is that this is the closest you will get to Formula One realism. That this is on track racing filmed, like this is cost $300 million. It is produced by the king of action films, and it's got everyone in F1's giving it the seal of approval of like for its realism, and even from Bernie to Lewis to Toto, everyone's like, "Yep, I told them to say that. Yep, that's an accurate wheel gun. Yep, that's how a puncture works." Exactly. I can choose to get a puncture whenever I like. I'm that skilled of a driver. They are. That's the build up for the film, right? That it is somehow going to be. We've captured the essence of what makes Formula One great, and we've put it into a 2.5 hour long action sequence for you that's going to have played out characters. But unfortunately, in order to deliver that, it's tried to do too many things. It is trying to be full of action, and it kind of is that. Like, I actually liked the actual on track racing cinematography. I thought was excellent. Like, genuinely, I thought it was something that I haven't seen in Formula One, in films about like racing like this. I thought that was genuinely exciting. I thought it told pretty accurate stories around how race weekends come together and all that kind of stuff, but it skipped over all the guff. Like, there was no, damn, practice. We used up more tires in practice than we did in the race. Or here's qualifying. It just bin all that. No one gives a shit. Only Formula One folk watch all that stuff. The race is the only thing that actually matters. And so all of the it has to have a story that resolves itself. It has to have a love interest, and it has to have some level of drama to it, that where things go wrong, and some sort of tension, right? But in order to chase the realism and to place it in history, it had to sacrifice so much, in that there is no inter-team conversation. The only interesting, and I actually did laugh out loud when Casper on the pit wall looks over at Gunter Steiner, and Gunter Steiner's like, "What the fuck?" Yeah, that's funny, right? And if you're a Formula One person, you go, "That's Gunter Steiner. He's funny and interesting, and he's in the film." And there we go, a little nod for us. Or if you've watched Drive to Survive, you know who he is, or recently on The Athletic. It is sacrificing things that make it so that what you said earlier around the idea that write a better story. Well, they can't, because they have to film it at all these tracks, and they have to film it with real Formula One. And that's the essence of what this film is trying to do. And that artificially pushes down it restrains the film from doing things that are more narratively interesting or have more complex relationships. It is down to its bare bones, basic, year 10 film analysis level of how to make an action film. And I actually think that this is most action films. It's just we know more about it. We know more about how this stuff works, and so
I don't know.
it
I
it, it
mean,
rings it rings untrue for you because it's in the uncanny valley for you.
I feel like if it was a movie, like if I was a commando and I watched Arnold Schwarzenegger in the movie Commando as Commando, the Commando, I would be cheering and I'd be loving it because it's so off the wall, absurd,
Outlandish.
bizarre.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I mean, I'm sure that there are people who watch that and be like, "Oh, and a bazooka, the launch button isn't over there, and you've got to click the lock 3 times before the bazooka shoots the helicopter." Like, I mean, maybe there are guys like that, but they still like the movie. I reckon they're not like, "I'm above this movie." You know what I mean? It's I I just I'm not the only person who is like this at its core is a bad movie and it's disappointing that all of this other prestige stuff is hung on the bones of this bad movie. But like I said before, I'm glad people are seeing it, enjoying it. I
What do you
That's
think people are
fine.
enjoying about it? Why do you think people like it?
All
Because
those
this is
little things that
unusual.
they
A film like
what
this doesn't usually score this well or have this many. Like this film has no right, like to be doing well. Like films of this, when sports franchises or other franchises try to do something like this, they tend to not be very good or do very
mm,
well. Look at every Marvel
do
offshoot;
well.
like they don't really do very well
Yeah. I mean, it's got Brad Pitt in
critically
it.
or
Like that's, it's not bad, not a bad start. It
yeah,
everything that I think is wrong with the film is an accordance that's been put into the film to appease people who like to be walked through a story, a
mm,
very, very basic story,
mhm.
given billions of little micro moments of micro joy where they're like, get it? Sunny Hayes wears mismatched socks. I'm wearing mismatched socks too. I was like, I don't give a fuck. But people who are looking for comfort take comfort
Yeah,
in those moments. They
yeah, they do.
infuriate me, but they comfort
Yeah,
other people.
yeah,
And the more that builds up, and the more you trick people into thinking that this is the most unlikely of outcomes, and then when they succeed, people who are primed and want to go for that will go for it. Of course, I
yeah.
mean that's it's like I remember being at uni studying narrative, and everyone was supposed to bring in a scene an example of a scene that they thought was really well written. And I remember so clearly this woman brought in a DVD of Mr. Natural with Robert Redford, and her scene that she thought was really well written was when Robert Redford hits a home run, runs around all the bases while fireworks go off in the background. And she thought that was the best movie that when she was asked to present a film, a scene that was well written, that was her idea of a well written scene, and I was like, that is one of the worst possible examples of that I could possibly think of. That's why I say it's a matter of taste.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree with you. Um, I think the only thing that ties you to this film is that it's about a sport that you care about. I don't think in any
If it
other
wasn't about F1, I
circumstance
would not see this movie. I
we
would
wouldn't.
not.
It would never have come up in our lives.
And they're talking about making a sequel, and I can tell you, I'm not going to go and see that. I may not even ever watch a sequel if they make one,
Yeah, I
because
mean,
this movie was so bad.
yeah, and I think that like if we like think about who made this film, Jerry Bruckheimer.
I am
He's the maker of. Let's have a quick look. What has he done that's really interesting
Transformers,
recently? Transformers, National Treasure, The
all
Amazing
Twister,
Race,
I
season
think,
after
all
season
like
after season,
big spectacle
Beverly
movies.
Hills
He
Cop.
produced it. The director was
Yeah,
Kaczynski.
yeah, and Kaczynski. I mean, but yeah, it's a Jerry Bruckheimer Studios thing. And Kaczynski, I mean, yeah, he did Top Gun Maverick, Only the Brave, Oblivion, a film that's fine, Tron Legacy, again, a film that's fine, but is about making sure that it's got big actors in it, and it was seen by millions of people, and it was doing stuff that we hadn't seen in movies before.
Hmm.
And I think that that's what people will think about this film, that it is like, wow, you've never been so close to Formula One. I think that's true. And I think and that's what I meant by my uncanny valley thing. The closer you get to it, the more boring it is. That if you get deeper and deeper and closer to Formula One, that there is actually not much, that it starts to, like, you start to hold the sand in your hands too tightly, and the magic starts to disappear a little bit. I think you have to keep Formula One at slightly at arm's length. If you squint and you look too closely, it is nerdery played out to the nth degree with too much chance. It's not a very good game as a sport. which is why it's very tricky to make like a coherent story about. And usually the people in the background have made, this is the one thing the film does get right. Get something right on the car and you can dominate. And it makes it really difficult for all the other teams. Like you come up with a MacGuffin, and that's what happens. Split diffusers. It's whatever Andrew knew is designed next. Like this is the sport a lot of the time, and it tends to be just kind of the racing doesn't have a huge amount of racing. So what did they do? They tried to pick a few things about Formula One that are like in the racing perspective that actually do change races, and the only things you could ever possibly do, and they amped them up outside of what would ever be possible in Formula One, because no one would ever drive around doing, strat C chaos. Like I'm going to cause 3 crashes in the race to cause 3 safety cars in order for us to get a point. Like that's impossible. It doesn't happen. However, Monaco this year, we saw something that we didn't think, I've never seen happen, which is a team deliberately slow down the entire pack so they could put one driver in for a pit stop, and then did it again. And if you'd asked me that 2 seasons ago, if that was ever possible, I would have said, no, that would never happen in Formula One. But we did.
Well, yeah, I mean, the reaction was incredibly bad to that, and they don't want to, because people don't want that. So,
of course.
I mean, anyway, I think it's been really interesting to see that the general consensus of the online discourse is that it's you either love it or hate it, and I think it's pretty clear that if you go for simple, broad movies that are absolute, just like candy, then you're more likely to like it. The thing that annoys me is that when people say, "Oh, you didn't like it," must be because you're too much of an F1 anorak. You're too close to F1. That must be why you didn't like it.
That's what I just
It's
said.
like I can dislike it because I dislike the story. I dislike the way it was told. Or what I've just spent the last 40 minutes laying out.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, there's little things that they got wrong. I could look past them if the story was really good.
Yeah.
I could look past it if I thought it was a movie that I wanted to recommend to people, to say, no, you should watch this, it's good. It's got a good heart. I don't think it's got a good heart. I can't recommend it to anybody. So, and it just annoys me when people try and project onto me why I didn't like it. I'm like, I know I didn't like it. I've had to bite my tongue for weeks because I've been waiting for this.
And that's why it's more interesting to talk about, I think, why people like it. Like, I think that you can, I could sit here, Rod, for 10 years talking to you about all the things that are wrong about this film. It is more interesting to try to work out why it's good. And for you to say that you think that 80% of 80% of people who watch films are looking for their films to be sweet, sickly sweet, and comforting. I actually think that film exists in an ecosystem where you don't only have to see one film in your life, and that you can like this and like something else that is vastly superior across the board. That is, I think you can go and see The Brutalist and like that, or hate that, and also love or hate Formula One for different reasons. And I know you agree with that too. So that's why I think that it's more interesting to work out, why is this striking a chord with people? And it's because it is a complicated sport to talk about. And somehow someone managed to extract some level of emotional reaction from people that I think actually does hint at why people like Formula One.
See, I mean, we've both watched Formula One for a long time. We've been doing a podcast about it for over a decade. I think the idea that there's nothing interesting or dramatic or enticing about the sport is not the right attitude. And to say that it couldn't be translated into a story, I don't think that's fair either. I didn't like this story, and that's that.
What did you think of the actual? Like, do you think there's any redeeming features?
The camera work, but even then. Like I know you said you loved it. I got so sick of the camera work, those cameras that are on the car. The one shot looking back at the car where it looks like it's 20 feet long and 2 feet wide. And I was like, after the 4th time I saw it, I was like, yeah, okay, but we can dial that back a little bit now because we've seen it. And that was the next hour of the movie. And I was like, but that's no good.
So tell me, why do you think people, other than the comforting thing, do you think there's any other redeeming qualities? Do you think that anybody's finding anything in this film? Because I can tell you one that got me. Right. And it's the one that we hinted at before. So when Pierce flips over, when he hits the curb at pace and the car flips into the sky, flips to the moon and lands in the crowd and bursts into flames. Yeah, exactly. Right. That just doesn't really happen in Formula One anymore, and wouldn't happen from that incident. Right. But it was there because that's the Grosjean incident.
Yeah.
And to give Sonny Hayes an opportunity to be like, fuck. I'm stopping my car. This is really
racing. I'm going to go get my car.
This happened to me essentially, and no one helped me. And I'm going to go pull this guy out of the flames. and it eases their friendship, right? Like this guy's like, oh shit, I didn't do
But
what you said.
even further than that, his accident was, and the broadcaster makes it painfully clear,
Mm,
his crash was on a fast right-hander where he was overtaking on the outside, and that's exactly what happens to this guy. And it's after he
exactly.
said, "Don't do that. Wait until you're on the straight." I mean,
Yeah,
it's surrounded by all of this ham-fisted stuff that I'm like, "Oh my
yeah.
god,
But other people
get
aren't
me out
necessarily
of
paying
here!"
attention to all of those things,
Well, of
right?
course not, because when the human
They're
drama
eating
is real,
popcorn.
that's all you care about.
Yeah. So that immediately made me go like, God, it was so scary when the Grosjean thing happened. And that's probably one of the only things that non-Formula One people will remember from Formula One over the last 10 years. And
It's the biggest, most
yeah,
engaging thing.
yeah. And God, is it even 10 years? How long has it been? It might even be more than 10. It's not more than 10 years ago, is it?
It's
No.
been more than 10
Time's
years.
collapsing in into
It's
weird
5 years
ways.
maybe.
5 years, yeah. But that, like, my heart was racing in that moment because I was like, is he going to stop? Oh my God, it's like, how bad's it going to be?
Oh my god, is it going to be okay?
Like,
What
I
do you
was
think?
totally, of course. But if you don't let if you cannot suspend yourself in that for a moment, then you will get no joy out of the film.
Well, yeah.
And
But
that's
10
it.
seconds earlier, I was laughing at how ridiculous it was.
Yeah, I know.
That's the
And
problem.
I think I think that's why you will always struggle and people will always struggle with this kind of thing, right? Is that if a film like this, if you can't just give yourself over to it, if you refuse to, or if it won't take that from you, if it cannot incite that in you to be like, you know what, you've got me on board Formula One film. I know you're crazy, but I'm here for it. Like, I think it either had to go way more crazy and take itself fully away from the constraints of what Formula One would be and mock it all up and not have any real drivers in it and do all of that. And that would be Race Car the film, right? But those films exist. You can go and watch Race Car the film somewhere else. This is
I watch
Formula
it every
One.
Sunday night at midnight. Stay up late for it every second week.
And that's why it only has so many viewers, right? Because it doesn't have Brad Pitt and it doesn't have anything interesting happening in it. Like the interesting things in Formula One are the intricacies of the thing.
The other thing that was ripped from the headlines was when they're at Spa and the guy that you like is hit from behind by his teammate who you've primed to not like. And I was like, produced by Lewis Hamilton, you say, that's pretty interesting. Did you think that?
I didn't think that. That's good though.
Oh, you didn't? That was one of the most obvious things that I could think of. This is obviously Hamilton
Maybe
playing
I
out.
did
This is what happened when Rosberg hit me. And then was bragging, hey, we're meant to be the ones who fired each other. Remember? Woo! I was like, Lewis Hamilton is trying to rewrite history here.
Woo. Yeah. Well, ripped from the headlines. It's real. The one time the film
make
tries
the
to do
rest of
something
it real,
and you don't like it. Yeah.
Make the rest of it real. You're all over the map and you don't even realize it.
No. I know. I don't think I'm alone in that. I'm just trying to play. I'm trying to get to the point where there is some way for you to see why people might enjoy it, and the points that I enjoyed were the little nods to Formula. I was like, oh yeah, that's a funny little thing there, or that I was questioning how it was going to resolve itself. I was like, because this is impossible. There's no shit team puts one side puts two new floor carbon fiber bits on their car and makes them suddenly brilliant. Like, it's impossible. This doesn't happen. There is only make Brawn the film then, if that's what you actually want. Like that's maybe the only interesting Formula One movie that could be made. But even that isn't that interesting because they nailed it day one and then they won everything from there. Like, that's like, what's the story there? Team finds MacGuffin in design, wins every race. Like, it's just there's no drama at all. Right. And that's the only drama that was actually real in the film. The FAA was like, that's fucked. And I was like, I wonder why that's fucked. That's weird. And then we had a little bit of designs from inside the team. Like, I actually thought that drama was pretty close to Formula One drama, right? A team purposely not doing well, so you bought out by a board. Like, yeah, that's fine. That's a very normal, good storyline. So it's a
storyline you could do.
Yeah. Here's my last thought. I'm all over the shop. I will never watch this film again.
What?
Do I think people should go and see it? Yeah, I think people should go and see it if they want a fun time. It's fun.
Cool.
Will you cry? Probably not. Will you laugh? Maybe.
Maybe even at the points where they expect for you to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't think we would go that long, but that was fun.
We've almost gone as long as the film.
Well, offered almost as much entertainment as well.
This is exactly how I thought we'd end up.
I knew going
Genuinely.
into this that you were going to love it, and
I
yeah,
don't love it.
don't you
That's
though?
my favorite thing you've said all day. I knew you'd fucking love this film. It's
Yeah.
fine. It's good. It's not great. Everything about it that is a film that you and I would talk about whether there are, if we were to sit down and have an actual conversation about films that we enjoy and why we like films in those ways, this film wouldn't come up in any way, shape, or form.
I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe. Okay.
No way to know. I will not be seeing
Sequel
what's the
F2.
potential? The Days of yeah, exactly. What do you call the sequel F2? Days of Thunder F1 crossover that's proposed with Tom
What?
Cruise and Brad Pitt.
Oh, well, they both drive for the same team
Well, exactly. That's what it is. Like, what? They both, is it the veterans team? Is it like old dogs, but for F1? Like,
versus
it's
new dogs.
weird.
Jordan Pierce is the new
Jordan
former. He's
Pierce,
recently crowned F1
triple world
driver.
champion. And
No, because it's got to be something Formula One related, but also slightly MacGuffined up. So it's like
hmm,
he's the galaxy's greatest driver, um, universal champion or something. I don't know. I don't know. What do we expect? We wanted it to be good. I knew it wouldn't be good. I wasn't excited going, and yet when I heard the cars and I saw these places that I adore and that I love, and I've been to some of them on the screen and in a way that was like, yeah, I love those places and I love that thing. I couldn't not have an emotional reaction to that because I'm in the cinema watching a thing that I love. And so that's where I gave over to the childish F1 fan in me, which just loves a thing that has a thing in it. Like anything that is kind of broadly Star Wars related. I love Star Wars. And so I'll watch the Star Wars related things. And sometimes they're not very good. And every now and again you get a Rogue One and an Andor, which are brilliant. But you have to wear everything else. And I think that's Formula One. Sometimes you get something brilliant, but you kind of have to wear everything else.
the fun thing is that that's not true at all. You don't have to do that. Anyway, well, there it is. Apparently a two. No, what do we say? You were averaging it at two.
2.5.
I think I
2.5 out of
rated it
5.
two.
A
I
5 or
rated it two and a
on,
5 on Letterboxd.
on the
But
10.
for me, that's
I
bad.
think it's a 6. I think it's a 6. But what's really bad then? How does someone get a 1 or a 0?
That is, nobody should see that movie. That's 1 star.
Okay. That's fair enough.
2 is very, very few people should see that movie.
Hmm.
3 is people who are into this might get something out of it. 4 is lots of people should see this. 5 is that is a great movie that's well made and for everybody.
I'm going to read some reviews to you to finish off the show.
Let's go.
9 out of 10, an experience of a lifetime. Just the way it was with Top Gun Maverick, Joseph Kosinski has once again delivered something that pulls you back to the cinema. This is what I call an experience. This is what movies are all about. They made promises with this, fulfilled every single one of them. Young guy taught by a veteran, everything done so spectacularly well. Brad Pitt, it had to be you. I'm convinced this guy doesn't do bad movies, except for all the bad movies he's been in. It's just Brad being Brad, and it's amazing. I'd pay to watch this again and again and again. This one's for you though. 7 out of 10. Been an F1 fan since the mid 80s, and I went to this expecting a Hollywood movie and thrilling entertainment, and it delivered. Look, even diehard F1 fans have to admit that not every waking moment of a race is fun. This film took elements from race history and used it over a space of 9 races. Whether it's Grosjean's fireball, the moment Senna grabbed the fire extinguisher from the marshal, they took it and they used it. Or Hamilton's getting smashed into the back of him by Rosberg. It's not in the review, but that's what you reviewed. Yes, there were some over-the-top elements, but what would you prefer? Track limit arguments? Go into this expecting a polished action movie with nods to F1. I liked it. My kids liked it. Zach liked it. If you go expecting an Oscar winner movie or a masterpiece, you're going to be disappointed. It's a fine watch.
If someone said to you, here's my pitch, Chess, the TV show, everyone would be like, that is the stupidest idea ever. But if someone was like, here's my idea, The Queen's Gambit, a dramatic story about the life of a woman who excels at one thing and has to come. Like, it's not hard to tell a good story about something that's boring. It is not hard. People think it is, but it's not if you get the fundamentals right.
I think you're right.
I want to read you a film review. You ready? This is from Eric Childress For all the money spent on his 10 pole position, it is remarkable they couldn't afford a screenplay that wasn't one of the thinnest in recent memory. Cars go vroom vroom around the track, carrying characters who never go through their own arc of any kind. Thanks, Eric. Saying what
Yeah.
I'm all thinking.
What I'm all thinking. He's right. Yeah. Where's the? Just tell me. Just give Lewis Hamilton an opportunity to tell his Formula One story, and I'll watch that. You could have a great
That
little
was
Nico
what
Rosberg
this
thing, and just
was.
call them differently, and just have them be different things. You know, just have them name. You don't even need to make it the documentary of Lewis Hamilton's life. You could just make it. Yeah, but just make it inspired by. You know, with a little bit more action and a little bit more involvement, and skip the 7 years where he won every single Grand Prix in a row, because that's boring filmmaking. Yeah. Okay. Well, I look forward to the next Formula One film that comes out, which will be Never. I think this will be successful enough that other sports will look at doing this. I fully expect to see WTA.
Terrible.
Yeah, like every spin-off of every copycat of Drive to Survive have all been terrible.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. Well,
there you go.
That's that.
What did you think, listener? Tell us. Leave a comment below. Team Rod or Team Zach? That's a fun way to spice that up.
Finally. Team Rod or Team Zach? Did you mildly enjoy it?
Disagree on something.
Did you kind of enjoy it, or do you think it's the worst thing ever made? These are your only options, it seems.
It's only those two options, apparently.
The scale only goes up to 7.
Either. Did you get the helmet popcorn bucket?
No, I don't think the Everyman was doing this. No, the Picture House. I don't think they were doing that. This was a small cinema, half full, on the opening weekend. So, yeah.
I somehow got tickets to IMAX opening night, and it was almost packed.
What did they think of it? Any woos in the crowd?
I'm not even kidding. The atmosphere coming out was pretty similar to my feeling. Like, just no one great, no one. It was just so like meh.
Bleh.
It was all very meh.
Yeah.
But you were talking about one guy wearing a Ferrari hat. There was probably about a third of the cinema had a hat, a jacket, a shirt, a t-shirt. Wow. It was like F1 people turned up.
Fucking nerd alert. So, Christ.
Yeah, the vibes were not good.
Bad vibes. Yeah, that is not who this crowd. This is not who that film is for.
Yeah, obviously. Well, anyway, we've tried a few times to wrap it up. I'm going to at least hit ending on the recording. So
yeah, I'm going to die of hunger.
Thanks, people watching and listening. And yeah, we'll be back with another podcast later, and I'll do a live stream in a couple of weeks or something. And if we can work it out, we might even do a live stream, not broadcast, because that's illegal. We're not allowed to do that. But a discussion, an open and frank discussion in real time alongside the spa.
The spa. We'll be there to tell you that it's actually not Eau Rouge that you care about. It's actually Radillon.
Yeah. Fuck off.
All right. I got to go. There's my doorbell.
All right. See you later, everybody. Bye.
Bye.